Oh, you know what I love?
Sports.
Love sports.
Sports. When
When it comes to
Texas A&M.
Where are you getting this information?
Let me tell you.
Welcome to TexAgs.
TexAgs Live.
I feel like I should be listening to the theme song from the Jeffersons. You know, we're moving on up.
We will develop men, we will graduate players, and we will win championships on the field.
The best way for us to win is to do it together.
He is a guy that has gotten better and better and better. He's just got that dog in him.
It's been special. The 12th man this past week was unbelievable.
And this is a real program. It's not fake. This is a real place. And if you want to be really good at football, this is a really good place to be.
You know, if I'm betting on anybody, it's the Aggies.
Buchanan.
Nuno.
Number 8, number 9. That's the rankings for A&M basketball according to the AP. Number 8, number 9 in the coaches poll. What say you, young man?
I don't know how you can not have them 8 or 9, if not higher. But that's all fair. Really doesn't matter, right?
Doesn't matter.
The really important one is I think is the net ranking, which I think they're 13 and climbing. Just win tonight. You know, it doesn't matter what your ranking is, just win.
The team they're playing, I believe, is won in their last 8. Is that
Maybe
right?
they might have won 2 games.
Okay.
Maybe.
I thought they were 1 in 7 is what I read. Yeah.
But they've lost some really close ones.
Mississippi State by a point, right?
Right. And I think that might have been in Starkville.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just
and they play good defense.
Just like any SEC team this year, if you think you're just going to walk out and win, you may walk out disappointed. You're going to have to play well. If A&M plays well and Georgia plays well, A&M wins.
Yes.
Obviously, if A&M plays well and Georgia doesn't, they win. If A&M doesn't play well and Georgia doesn't play well, A&M wins. But
if A&M plays poorly
and Georgia plays okay, then Georgia won the game.
What is playing poorly? Because with A&M, it's never about the effort. It's about droughts and scoring, right?
Yeah. If you have one of those games where you shoot 2 of 20 from 3 and you're not getting to the free throw
7
line.
of 19 from the free throw line.
Right. You know, doing the things that just not putting the ball in the hole. You know, because they're going to do all the other things. They're going to offensive rebound typically, and they're going to play hard on the defensive end, and they're going to do. But ultimately, you got to put the ball in the hole.
If you go 9 of 16 from the 3 and you hit 12 of 18 from the free throw line, you win.
Yes.
And those aren't ridiculous numbers. Those are
9 of 16 would be pretty awesome.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty ridiculous. Okay.
Maybe 9 of 20.
9 of 20. You hit 9 of 20. That's
really good.
That's fantastic. Yeah.
Hey, if you
hit 9 of 16, you're definitely winning.
If you give me 7 of 21, I'll take it. That's 33%. I'll take that.
Yeah. These are A&M will lose games because of scoring droughts. When do those scoring droughts happen? Right? If they happen in the last few minutes of a game, which typically doesn't happen, they can lose.
Yeah.
If it doesn't happen, they win.
I think we all need a game where they go out and get a lead and never really give it away. You know, where they go out, they take control and just hold on to it the whole way. And they need a low stress game.
Yeah. You know, this is TexAgs Live.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, we're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We are in the Rollo Insurance Studio. It is the Go Hour presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations. OB, it's going to sound like a simple question, but I want to investigate. I want to talk it through for a moment, okay?
Okay.
Best win of the season.
Best win of the season for Texas A&M this year. You know, I think you could make a strong case. I mean, look, Purdue was pretty huge.
Purdue's number 7.
Yeah, which is
it's pretty good.
That's pretty.
They're ahead of A&M, which hurts.
I think, it's again
whatever.
Rankings.
Who cares?
I think you can make a really strong argument that come from behind win at Oklahoma.
Okay.
Or even the come from behind win at OU. I'm sorry, I meant Ole Miss.
Ole Miss is the one. Well, You can make an argument
because Ole Miss is better than Oklahoma.
You can make an argument, I think, for 4 of the teams for sure. I mean, you can make an argument for any of them. Purdue is the highest ranked team, but they're not in the SEC. So,
Right.
but they are the highest ranked team.
But
And that,
conference wins mean more to me.
I'm trying to remember. I think Wade missed the last few minutes of that game. That's when he initially got hurt. At the end of that game. So that was a tight game. Their defense was fantastic in that one.
They shot well.
Zurich Phelps and Pharrell Payne each scored 16. Wade had 15. So really a complete performance in that game. Defensively, on the road, yes, neutral site, but not really. Let's be honest, that wasn't a neutral site. You can say then Texas Tech.
It was a very good win on a neutral site.
Texas Tech was a neutral site game. Didn't feel like you were there. Didn't feel like a neutral site game.
No, it felt very pro Texas Tech. And I don't think A&M played particularly well and still won.
Yep. Wade Taylor in that game, 19 points, hit free throws in the last 30 seconds of the game to win that one. It was a kind of a back and forth game. Texas Tech, though, was without their leading scorer.
Yeah, well, sucks for them.
JT Toppin.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I've learned a long time ago that you can say, yeah, they're without somebody. And I learned it probably starting in 2012, as soon as you got into the SEC. Too bad. Pay me.
Too bad. So sad. Ole Miss, to me, might have the biggest impact. Missouri was a huge impact. I mean,
That was a huge win.
But Ole Miss, that one felt like it was done. I never felt like Missouri was done. Even when Missouri took the brief lead, I was like, this is what A&M. Hey, it's raining. This is what A&M does. Ole Miss, I mean, I think with 3 minutes left, I had given up. I was like, they're not going to do this. Wait, are they going to maybe do? Are they doing? They just did it.
Yeah. Yeah, that was amazing. That's why I go back to the Oklahoma game, though. Say, kind of set the I don't want to say precedent because they come from behind before, but that kind of.
And that was without Wade.
Yeah, it said, hey, you can win any game against anybody. Because they were down 18.
Yeah.
The bottom line is there's been a lot of good wins. If you want to look at the rankings, you're going to say, oh, the best one's Purdue. If you want to look at the caliber of team, right, I know Purdue's ranked higher, but I'm not so sure. I mean, Ole Miss might be better.
And I think Ole Miss might be the best team of that group if they were to play, right?
That's what I mean.
But Missouri, at this point of the season, being undefeated at home, right, to me, that carries a little bit of weight.
Sure, it carries a lot of weight. Again, we're talking about a team that's ranked 8th, and we're just talking about all the reasons why.
Yeah.
They don't have just a gaudy record like a lot of teams do. They have a gaudy record against a really challenging schedule with a lot of ranked opponents. So
the Ole Miss
that's why there's some people are saying they should be a 2 seed already.
Yeah. The Ole Miss game, too, it was the fact that Manny hit the shot. And I don't think we expect him to, like Wade Taylor hitting a last-second 3 or close to last-second 3. I'm not going to say it's expected, but like if someone's going to do it, we think of Wade, right?
He's the guy I want to take the last shot.
We don't think of Manny in that scenario.
No, and especially I think,
Zurich had the ball.
Yeah, Zurich had the ball, made a great pass. Again, almost, I don't want to say the same place, but in a very similar area that Wade was when he made the shot against Missouri. And it was a beautiful shot. I mean, it was almost like Wade's nothing but net kind of thing, and a real clutch thing. And then it was Zurich with 2 big free throws, I think, late against Oklahoma. So one of the things about this team is some teams has a go-to guy. And Wade, I think, would be A&M's go-to guy. But I think A&M has some go-to guys.
They have some go-to guys. Another thing that I think is apparent, I don't have the numbers in front of me. I didn't print it out. I thought I had. But Pharrell Payne in these games has been phenomenal. In these big games. Because I think Wade hasn't played in all of them. And one of the games, I think he had like 4 points. Pharrell Payne is going to be a double-digit force in these big games that matter.
I think that the difference between last year and this year, with A&M being a good team that almost made the second week of the tournament, the NCAA, and A&M being a team that's going to be a 2 or 3 seed probably. The main difference to me is that inside game starting with Pharrell Payne.
Yeah.
By the way, he's been in the starting lineup, I think, the last 3 games. They're 3-0. But, yeah, he's made such a difference. he had that. We talked about it yesterday. That one sequence late in the game against Missouri, misses a shot, gets a rebound, misses a shot, gets a rebound, and puts it back in. I mean, how long has A&M had that since Nebo left?
That is just a man, right? Yeah. Like that. That's kind of basketball I can get down with. That's physicality at its best.
And they just showed a big block. I mean, he gives you a presence, as they say, on both ends of the floor.
He is so much fun to watch. And again, you look at games against these ranked teams, look at his numbers. He's double figures, almost getting you double-figure rebounds. Like he's probably at 7 in those games. He's got 16, 14, 15 points in those games. He's been an absolute force. So I asked the audience. I ask you why, Rollo and Church. Now I ask you, what's the best win of the season so far? And hopefully we have a lot more wins to add to it, because if they're going to go to an Elite Eight or beyond, they're going to need bigger wins than they've already had.
Yeah, you know what? I'd love to see them. I want to see them beat Georgia tonight.
Sure.
All of a sudden, Arkansas on Saturday looks like a really tough game.
Yep.
But I'm looking for that Tennessee game. Isn't that in about a week?
Yeah.
About a week and a half. That's going.
And Tennessee needs it to stay in the. Well, they're not in the top 4. A&M is in the top 4.
Lenardi right now. Last I looked, last night had Tennessee as a 1 seed.
Is that right?
Yeah.
What do you have, A&M?
2 seed.
Okay. I'll take it.
He had Auburn, Alabama, and Tennessee as 1 seeds. A&M and
Florida.
2
seed.
As 2 seeds.
All right, so what is the biggest win of the season so far? What do you want to see tonight? 979-693-1150. If you call that number, we'll pick it up on the Buppies hotline, Buppies Catering hotline. By the way, OB, this area that we're sitting in, I didn't...
Right, this cool area right here?
Yeah, it's kind of a box/rectangle.
Yeah, it's a cool zone.
It is a cool zone.
It is, and that's why we call it the cool zone.
Well, it's the holistic planning cool zone.
That's why holistic planning calls it the cool zone.
They're cool.
They are cool because they can help you with your investments. What's cooler than having successfal investing?
Yeah, it's the coolest
thing. Every time
I
get my portfolio, I think, man, it's pretty cool.
Oh, you have a portfolio? Bro,
yeah.
Refined human.
How about the taxes?
Yeah, they help you with
taxes
that.
Aren't cool.
Well, maybe we won't have to pay them.
Maybe we won't, or maybe you'll get a big tax refund, which would be really cool.
That would be fantastic.
We should all get a huge one after what we've been hearing. And the estate, well, it's cool to have an estate, but you got to plan it. You know, and so they can help you with that, which is cool. But you know what's coolest of all?
Owning a pro sports franchise.
Yeah, that'd be kind of cool.
Investinprosports.com is the website. All right, let's continue the dialogue. Again, the number 979-693-1150. We go around the room. We go behind the glass. Cade Bickham is in the chair. He hasn't been in the chair since football season. Well, maybe vacation time. Cade, good morning, buddy.
Good morning, y'all. Yeah, that sounds correct. I think it's been at least since before break. So I'm excited to be back in the chair. Going well so far. How are y'all doing this morning?
We're doing great. What time did you show up to work this morning?
6:30. 6:30 a.m.
I love when people are punctual. I love it when people show up on time and do their job.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah,
I'm typically early. Today I was later than usual.
Yeah, but you start thinking about work early, so you're early.
You know what? I think probably everybody that's hearing us, and I know it's hard to never be thinking about work. Well, you're always thinking about work.
I can forget about it.
I can't sometimes. Maybe that's why.
Why would I want to forget about Aggie sports? Actually, let's not answer that. Cade, what's on your mind this morning?
Well, you guys were talking about best wins of the season. I think I would tend to agree that it's probably that Purdue win. I know that it was it was a neutral site game or whatever, but it was in Indianapolis. That was the furthest the team had to travel other than that early season tournament to Las Vegas. So that's a tough road. That's a tough environment to have to go up to, and that's a big win against a really tough team. I know they didn't have. If I'm correct, they didn't have one of their top players in that game, but it was I never felt bad about A&M in that.
Yeah, I agree with that.
They were winning that game the whole time.
What's the best loss?
The best.
You can't be the best loser, right? That's a terrible thing.
Well, I would think you're highly competitive against Alabama, and you lost that one more than they won it because of your free throws. So I don't know if there's a best loss, but you can look at it and say, hey, the game that we let get away, probably even more than the one in Austin, was, and it would have been
Oregon.
Bigger. You had the team that's number 1 or number 2 in the country, and you had a chance to really beat them. Oregon, you had the lead and then went cold at the end of the game.
Like we've discussed, yeah. So the worst loss of the season is the one in Austin.
Yeah.
If you're going to hang your hat on one, like, God, we just hit our free throws, it's definitely that Alabama game.
Yeah, and I think when they went to Kentucky, it's just a bad matchup, especially without Wade.
Yeah. Threes galore. All right, let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Aggies gather at the Angry Elephant. We're going to be having an event. I can't tell you too many details yet, but there's going to be an event at an Angry Elephant in the Texas area pretty soon.
Texas area is pretty vast.
It's huge. All right.
We're going to be.
I'm going to say within 1 mile to 90 miles distance from here.
Yeah,
somewhere in that range.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
You're going to be there.
I'm going to be there.
I'm going to be there.
You're going to be there.
There might be others.
Could be.
There could
maybe Maria will be there.
Maybe Griglione at the Angry Elephant News and Social Center.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm pretty good. How are y'all?
I'm doing wonderful, thank you. What's going on in your world?
So, Aggie softball. Emily Kennedy threw her second career no-hitter on Sunday in an 11-0 run rule victory against Purdue. And infielder Mac Barba kicked off the scoring for A&M with her first grand slam in the second inning. The Aggies tacked on 6 more runs in a big third inning, and the Aggies' next softball game is this Thursday against Wichita State.
Good stuff. Obi, you're going to hear the name Mac Barber again in the next segment. I guarantee it when we do the Performance of the Week. This week's Performance of the Week was kind of difficult because there were a lot of different sports, people, humans. So there's going to be somebody who gets their feelings hurt. We can name them all. All right, a lot of good weekend for Aggie sports.
I think I saw some good news from tennis yesterday.
Mm-hmm. That's going to be on there.
Yeah.
ITA. You know who they're going to take on in the championship?
Probably the team they took on in the championship last year. Yeah, outdoors.
The Georgia Bulldogs.
The Georgia Bulldogs.
We'll have
maybe
more of
everybody's
that.
on the same plane coming over from Georgia.
Maybe that's the case. What else, Griggs?
I was actually going to touch on that. The number 2 Texas A&M women's tennis team is headed to the ITA National Indoor Championship after downing number 12 Oklahoma.
We drowned them.
Yeah, I guess we did. In a nail biter against the Combe Tennis Center. At the Combe Tennis Center. 4-2. Aggies women's tennis plays number 1 ranked Georgia today at 6:30.
Let's just do it again.
Yeah.
Oops, we did it again. You're a big Britney fan.
I liked her better when she was small.
All right, let's talk about expanding our waistline, shall we?
Oh, I have no problem with that.
Let's go to 1775. If you're a carnivore and you're like watching your carbs, and you're trying to, I'm counting my calories, David, but I need to have my protein.
It's a perfect place for the carnivore diet.
And if you're not at the carnivore, you just like to eat. If you're an eater, who doesn't like to eat?
I like to eat.
You go to 1775.
Heck yeah, 1775 because what? That lineup. We'll talk about a lineup, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this lineup is more powerful maybe even than the A&M baseball team. It's a lineup we're going to lead off. We're going.
I like where you're going.
Let's lead off with some queso mac and cheese.
Yes, because it's fast. It gets on base.
Yeah, and then let's follow up with how about some of that succulent brisket?
Oh yeah,
kind of like lavalette.
Advances the runner of the third. I like that.
And then of course some of that jalapeno cheese sausage.
Oh, we got an RBI, didn't we?
Yeah. But if you really want to knock it out the park,
we got a loaded bases. What happens?
Pork ribs.
Holy smokes!
Yeah, and
smokes. Get it?
Yeah, I like that. Very good. And then then here comes turkey, and then here comes pulled pork, and then here comes dessert.
It's funny that meat items are now people, but it's what happens when you go to 17. You have a relationship with the food that you're eating.
I do have a relationship with the food I'm eating. In fact, some of it I look at it and I say, I love you, and then I take a big bite.
Open Thursday through Saturday, 11 a.m. until they're sold out. 8203 Raven Station Parkway in College Station, 979-492-6241. It's 1775txbbq.com.
I love you.
What's up, TexAgs? This commercial break is brought to you by my good friends over at Aggieland Chevrolet, the official automotive sponsor of TexAgs.com and me, Billy Lucci. Greg Gunn is the proud owner of Aggieland Chevrolet and invites you to visit the dealership to experience true Aggie hospitality. From their friendly staff to the experienced service team, Aggieland Chevrolet is TexAgs approved. Check out the dealership off of Highway 6 in Bryan or go to AggielandChevrolet.com and tell them Billy Lucci sent you by.
TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Go Hour, presented by The Warehouse at CC Creations. As a reminder, the final segment of the program is brought to you by Double Dave's. That's at 10:50. But right now, caller number 12, 979-693-1150. We're going to hook you up with your choice of a dozen pepperoni rolls or a large one-topping pizza from Double Dave's. They have been around since 1984 with your favorite pizza and, of course, those world-famous pepperoni rolls. Reliable in-house delivery, bringing piping hot goodness straight to your door. Just click on doubledaves.com and your favorites are on their way. Look, we're about to do the performance of the week, and there's a lot, but I feel like the performance of the week is the booker of the show, JT Booker, who books all of our guests here on the show.
Yeah, JT
Booker, he's awesome. Yesterday he had a splendid show. There's some threads about that. Today, Josh Pate.
It's always a good show when Josh is on.
Academy Sports and Outdoors presents that one. Charean the Dream,
Charean Williams, always a great show when she's on.
Yep. We've got Pounding the Rock with Luke and Tap.
Yeah,
I like Tap.
Yeah, anytime you have Tap on, it's a good show.
And Justin Lanham.
Anytime. So 4 for 5.
Oh, and we're going to have a Georgia insider, Jordan Hill, here in a few minutes. So we got some good stuff to talk about here on TexAgs Live.
Looking forward to it.
Let's do the performance of the week. Opie, you get the first call.
You know, gosh, there's so many from that basketball game.
You can do whatever, bro. We got graphics galore.
You know, how about, well, anytime someone hits a game-winning shot, you got to say that's like performance of the week, Wade Taylor.
So let's put Wade's graphic up because Wade Taylor absolutely.
You know what people forget?
I don't.
First of all, I think he had 11 points in the second half, but he had a shot before his game winner where he goes into the lane. It's kind of almost awkward, off balance, but it was a huge shot that he made.
15 points, 3 of 9 from the three, hit both of his free throws. I'll take 3 of 9 from 3.
Oh, yeah.
33%?
30, yeah. But you know what? I mean, how do you leave off Pharrell Payne?
Well, I actually did the combining thing. I combined the front court because just that massive front court of Henry Coleman and Pharrell Payne.
Henry Coleman with 16 rebounds.
20 points for Pharrell with his 4, right? And you have Henry Coleman, 16 rebounds with his 6. So
Solomon
26
Washington,
and 20 from your...
Solomon Washington with a big block shot.
Solo was huge. Luke actually had a tweet, and I don't have it in front of me, where he talked about the last couple of game winners. Solo's had a big play leading up to the first. A rebound or, yeah. So he's been involved in the play leading up to the big 3.
Yeah. Solo's one of those guys that if you look at the numbers, you might say, well, he's not much of a factor, but
he's a factor.
It's beyond the numbers.
Yeah. Hey, well, never mind. Let's go to softball, shall we?
Let's do.
Mac Barbara. Mac Barbara's been fan-freaking-tastic. 3 home runs in her first weekend as an Ag. 13
Mac
RBI.
Short for like Michaela or something like that?
I wish I knew the answer to that.
Because it almost seems like her name ought to be, reversed to Barbara Mack. Yeah, but hey, whatever. You call her whatever as long as she keeps hitting the ball like she's hitting it.
Master Aggie Corporation. Okay, I'm not as witty as you, OB, but she is a master at hitting home runs.
She is. She's a home run machine.
She was great. I'm going to give Emily Kennedy love. I mean, I think we've forgotten about her. I mean, she just threw her second no-hitter.
Yeah, it's, this spring is shaping up like it's supposed to work for A&M, where everybody's good.
I like when everybody is good.
Yeah.
Speaking of everybody being good, the Aggie women's tennis team, we mentioned them earlier. They're headed to the ITA National Indoor Championship after beating number 12 Oklahoma. And it was Mia Kupras delivering the clinching blow on court 3, coming back from a first set loss to win 5-7, 6-3, 6-4 over somebody that I can't pronounce their name.
Yeah. And you know what? She was also part of a doubles team that won earlier. So Mia had a big week.
Hey, let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center because track and field also has some big stuff going on. What do we have there, Maria?
Yeah, so Aggie Track and Field had their last home meet of the season this past weekend. And Indoor meet, sorry. And freshman Sofia Yakushina led the group with an all-time performance, racking up 4,234 points to finish as the top collegiate athlete in the event and ranks 3rd on the A&M all-time performance
That
list.
would be the pentathlon?
Huh?
What was the event? Is that the...
Let me check.
Heptathlon.
Heptathlon.
Pentathlon's the one with the guns. So it probably doesn't have any guns. Yeah.
No. Okay.
The heptathlon?
Yeah, and I know that they're traveling this week, so Coach Henry's going to get back to me about tomorrow's show. He should be on, but I don't know if it may be on the phone. He's not sure when they're leaving. So we'll be able to kind of recap and look ahead as well.
Remember all the guys with the names that I would struggle to pronounce yesterday.
There was a few.
With the best 1,600-meter relay time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do this.
Doing some good things in track and field.
Let's hit a break. Let's learn about Georgia, shall we?
George is on my mind.
Yeah, Jordan Hill's going to join us, UGA Insider. We'll talk to Jordan here in a little bit. All right, right now, Bird Dog, Aggie-owned and operated company creating access to hunting opportunities. My buddy Jonathan Lusk actually met up with Todd Farquharson yesterday. Todd Farquharson is a great Aggie who runs ESPN in Houston. They were talking about Bird Dog, and then my name came up, and it's just, the Aggie community is great. The hunting community is great, right? And when you want to go on an awesome hunt, let Bird Dog take care of it for you because they are an Airbnb for hunters. And what they do basically is set up the entire hunt for you, the logistics, the 5-star ranch, everything you want, they'll set it up for you. That's one part of what Bird Dog does. The other part is helping out the ranchers, right? They're going to get you money on your land, not only by getting hunters on your land, but finding you those tax benefits that are going to optimize and get you money on your ranch. Many of their clients are making an extra $100 to $500 per acre of land. They can be your personal consultant and help you maximize income on your land. So remember Bird Dog for all your full-service hunting experiences, and for you landowners, let them help you find money on your land. The website is birddogit.com. That is birddogit.com. Everyone, David Nuno here in a moment right now for Snaps Clothing. They are the makers of the only official licensed Texas A&M Pearl Snap shirts. I'm wearing it right now. This is part of their Tailgater collection. It's built for game day. My friend Edgar over there is doing great work. You've got to check out the clothing. It's the Pearl Snaps. It's the cool look. It's kind of hip, but also Western. You'll love it, and they have great stuff there. They'll keep you comfortable as you're repping your Aggie gear, and it's the place to go to get it. Whether you're watching the game from home or tailgating before watching the stands, these shirts have you covered. Head to snapsclothing.com. That is snapsclothing.com to gear up for the season. All right, we're back here on TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We're in the Rollo Insurance Studio. Let's go to the Buff Beats Catering Hotline. Jordan Hill's a Georgia insider, beat writer for Dogs 247, joins us here on the show. Jordan, what's up, man?
Hey, not much, and I think I heard a little turnpike right there. That's a good way to start the day right there.
That's right, Troubadours here on TexAgs. Hey, so help us understand Georgia, because I haven't watched much of them, to be honest with you. I know that they're very tough defensively. I know they can beat teams. They came very close to Mississippi State. But I think they've struggled to win games the last, 7, 8 games? I think they're, 1-7 in their last 8?
Yeah, they're struggling. They've hit a skid where really the only wins of note lately have been South Carolina, LSU, and we're talking about two of the worst teams in the SEC. It's sort of the rubber meets the road right now for Georgia. I thought, looking back at that Mississippi State game, great opportunity to win. I thought a win that they sure could have used when it comes to trying to stay on that NCAA tournament bubble. A very uncharacteristically bad defensive effort. I think Mississippi State wound up shooting like 56% from the field on the road, and they let one slip away, lose by a point. And yeah, this is a team that had put itself in a position to be in this NCAA tournament talk. They're 4-7 right now in SEC play. I really think with 7 games to go, they got to get at least 3 more SEC wins. Probably would be better off with 4. But it kind of feels like this thing might be slipping away, and I think they're in for a pretty long night, I'm expecting, in College Station.
Well, it seems like when they do have trouble, it's typically when they're on the road. Is that fair?
Absolutely. I mean, you look at some of their games, a great opportunity at Arkansas when Arkansas didn't have an SEC win. Georgia had a 15-point lead in the second half. They wound up losing that one by 3, lost by 30 to Florida, by far the worst game Georgia's had this season, lost by 21 to Alabama, a game that was pretty competitive until probably 5 minutes into the second half, and then Alabama just took it over. So, yeah, it's a team that 0-5 on the road in SEC play this year. Their only road win at all was against Georgia Tech, which in-state rivalry, going to Atlanta, not necessarily a long trip for Georgia. But, yeah, I mean, looking at these last 8-9 games for Georgia, we're talking about what games they need to win. I've kind of ruled out the road games, just knowing how much they've struggled, other than South Carolina, who, again, we're talking about the worst team in the conference. So, yeah, they have not played well on the road. A lot of turnovers in a lot of those games. The Florida game, they had 14 in the first half alone. So I would say pay attention to how they play, especially in that first half. If they limit turnovers, they may wind up being able to hang with Texas A&M, but it has been an issue in these road games.
Jordan, let us know the health of the team. I understand Tyron Lawrence is out. How big of a deal is that?
That's pretty significant. He's not a starter. He had been for the majority of this season, but a couple weeks ago they pulled him out, and Mount St. Mary's transfer Dakota LeFew wound up taking his spot. But Tyron's one of the main ball handlers when he's out on the floor behind Silas Timory Jr., a guy that I think is really the most effective when it comes to setting up his teammates. Very good with notching several assists in a game, especially when he's out there. So not a dire situation because, again, he was not starting for this team, but a guy that's played a lot of SEC basketball, a guy that had been at Vanderbilt for, I want to say, 4 years. So sort of knew, going into situations like this, going on the road, what to expect. I do think it hurts, but I don't think it's necessarily a catastrophic situation with him not being available.
Jordan, when Georgia is winning or almost winning, like against Mississippi State, what are they doing well? What do they have to do to have a chance to win?
I think that they do a really good job of attacking in that front court, and it starts with Asa Newell, and it doesn't take an expert to say, the 5-star freshman is really good. He's the guy that I think has a real chance to be a lottery pick, maybe one and done for Georgia. And he does this thing where you kind of look up in a game and you're like, it doesn't seem like he's done a lot, and by halftime he's got 12 points and 4 or 5 rebounds. And the biggest thing to me when we go back to that Mississippi State game they lost, something that was sort of uncharacteristic for Asa, he didn't pull down a lot of rebounds, didn't have any in that first half, a little bit more active on the boards in the second. So I think you need to see him RJ Godfrey, a guy they got from Clemson. I think you got to see them really keep this rebounding battle at least close on the road. And, it's sort of been driven by Asa Newell as far as scoring and then just getting a guard to kind of contribute, whether it's Dakota LaFew, who we talked about a few minutes ago, Silas Demery Jr., the starting point guard. Blue Kane had a really, really impressive game, flirted with a triple-double when they beat LSU last week. So it's really driven by their front court. I think their guards have been a little underwhelming this year. We thought some of those guys would take a step forward. But if they can get one of those guards going, scoring-wise, at least early in the game, it could set up for a 40-minute fight.
Jordan, I got a weird, convoluted question for you. How much of Georgia's identity is their defense? And then I'm going to say, is that potentially an advantage for A&M because offensively they struggle anyway? So if that's what you hang your hat on and A&M kind of lives in those streets, is that maybe an advantage for A&M?
I would agree. And yeah, it is definitely driven by defense. And when it's going well, it's very impressive. When they keep these teams locked down and just gets enough, and Georgia gets enough scoring to kind of build a lead and hang on, it looks great. And then you have these situations again. The best examples are these road losses we're talking about. Florida, just a lot of turnovers, sloppy on defense, and by the time you look up, you're down 21-25 at halftime. And then the Alabama game, it was like there were stretches where they kept Alabama in check scoring-wise, but Georgia couldn't match it on the other end. It just sort of felt like – and that's what really made – that Mississippi State game so out of the ordinary. Georgia shot, I want to say, 46% from the field. You do that at home, and they shot better from three-point range, really, than we've seen since SEC play started. You sort of thought this is a great situation for Georgia to get a home win, and for whatever reason, the defense just didn't play as well. Really struggled getting back in transition. You could tell Mike White was disappointed with that defensive effort. So, yeah, they hang their hat on defense, and I don't know that that's a great matchup for Georgia when it comes to this A&M team. I don't know that they're going to win playing defensive first, with that sort of approach on the road.
Yeah, Jordan, I hope you don't take this as an insulting question, but in any way, but how much does Georgia care about basketball with all the things that are going on in football there? And a second part to that, so from the Georgia perspective, how big a deal is it that Noah Thomas is going there?
Good question.
Yeah, well, starting with the basketball thing, I always bring up the Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come. They will support a winner. But when you don't win, they're not going to support it. And you kind of saw it this season. A fantastic start to SEC play for Georgia. They lose on the road at Ole Miss, but they come back the next week, beat Kentucky, beat Oklahoma. They were both ranked. That was the first time Georgia had beaten ranked teams in consecutive games since 2007. And you saw it with the crowds that showed up after that really packed Stegman Coliseum. That Georgia was ranked for a moment there. That was the first time they'd been ranked in 14 years. And then you have these situations where when you start losing, it's hard not to notice in Stegman those crowds. The students are showing up, and I do think they deserve a lot of credit for that, but you don't have quite that packed house. So, I'm someone, I covered Auburn before I got to Georgia, and I bring up Auburn gymnastics because, Auburn gymnastics, there wasn't a ton of people really following it. They get Suni Lee, who is an Olympian, and it's a packed house every night. If you build it, they will come. That's sort of my approach with Georgia basketball, and it helps. It comes at the end of the football season. Now, Noah Thomas, second question, huge get for Georgia just because the X position is one where they really struggled this past football season. It was because two guys they were counting on wound up not being a part of the picture. Ra Thomas was dismissed in July. And then Colby Young was arrested in October, had his legal situation play out, finally resolved about a month ago, but he wound up missing, I want to say that was the last 8 games. So they needed more size. They get Noah Thomas. I think they're excited about him. Colby Young is expected to be back for the 2025 season. I think Noah's going to be one of the top targets on this offense. Really fascinating to see how he fits in and how he and Gunnar Stockton, who I expect to be the starting quarterback for Georgia, how they gel this offseason and what they're able to do once we get to the fall.
Hey, Jordan, I got another weird question for you. Who is the third and fourth best three-point shooter on the team? Because it feels like every time A&M takes on a team,
yeah, it's somebody else.
It's a guy that you don't think about on the scouting report, right? And he'll knock one of the kids from Missouri hit 3 in a row in the last game. Hit Spanish last.
Oh, okay. I don't know. I just remember I heard of Cruz.
Jacob Cruz. There you go.
Yeah, Cruz, and then there's the kid at Oklahoma.
Goodine, who hit a bunch.
So who's the obscure guy that's going to?
There's going to be a guy that hits 4 threes, right? Or 3 at least. You mark it. Who is that guy?
So if we're talking about the third or fourth, I would say probably Silas Demery Jr. And I will say this Georgia team does not shoot well from 3. So if this does happen tonight, then let's say, all right, y'all talked it into existence. But I will say this, that Silas hit a couple of 3s in that Mississippi State game. So I'll put that out there. I'd say Dakota LaFew is your best 3-point shooter, and then probably Blue Kane. So watch Silas Demery. He's the point guard. If he starts hitting, I'm putting it on you guys.
I'm just telling you, there's always a guy that, like, the guy who gets the third pass. Oh, he's doubled. He's doubled. Oh, here's the rando. He'll hit a 3.
Right.
Every game. Hey, Jordan, great stuff, man. Hope to talk to you again, all right?
Sounds great. See you guys.
Thanks very much. All right, Jordan Hill breaking down Georgia basketball. We'll hit a break. Come back with the final segment. Get to your text messages, maybe your phone calls. What was the best win of the season for A&M basketball so far? Hopefully we'll add to that list as the season goes on.
Sometime in April, maybe.
That'd be really nice.
That would be.
Yeah. A few in March would be great on the way, right?
Yeah, but the biggest one at the end of the season, let's hope it's in April.
Hey, when you look, I know that sounds ridiculous to say that right now, but it doesn't. If you're being discussed as a potential 1 or 2 seed, like you're allowed to think, you're allowed to dream.
Sure you are.
We're allowed to dream here on TexAgs Live. Aggieland Express Car Wash, they are your friendliest car wash in the area. They've got 2 great locations in College Station. You got the original William D. Fitch and the newest location, 2528 Texas Avenue South in College Station, across from the Planet Fitness. They have all the wash options you can imagine. But the Texas Avenue location offers the full-service wash, and they're going to take care of all the cleaning, the drying, the vacuuming, everything, all under a completely covered patio. Ask about their 3 levels of full service, and we're going to give one away right now. The first caller to call 979-693-1150, we're going to give you an Aggieland Express car wash at the newest location, a $40 value. 979-693-1150. It is Aggieland Express Car Wash. And we're back. TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Rollo Insurance Studio. Go Hour coming to a close. Brought to you by The Warehouse at CC Creations. He's Olin. I'm David.
Yep.
She's Maria.
She is.
Maria, you're going to attempt to read a text message in a non-bubbly form, correct? Because you said you want to focus on being, what was the word you used? More of a mad?
Angry.
Angry. Because you're at the Angry Elephant Youth and Social Center.
Yeah, so you have to be angry.
But you're smiling as you're angry. So go ahead and try. Let's see if we can knock it out.
Okay, from Jerry.
Jerry!
He says,
be angry.
Hey guys, well...
Oh, yeah, you're happy again.
Sorry. Hey guys, well, the Missouri win...
You can't do it, can you?
I can't do it. Hey guys, well, the Missouri win, I think it is the best of the season so far. It keeps our momentum going. We beat a top-rated team undefeated at home. That's got to be the best. Great show.
Great point. Let me ask you this.
Yes.
How important is the game after the game to kind of help define that game? So, like, for instance, you brought up the Oklahoma game, which set up some more fun, right? So how important is it, like this Missouri game, taking care of business against Georgia, because and it just adds to what she mentioned there, or Jerry mentioned, the momentum.
Well, here's the fact, and this sounds like a coach. I'm sorry that I'm going to be coach speak, but right now it is the whole thing about the next game is always the most important one because you are in the conversation for a number 2 seed.
Yep.
And you're still in the, you need some help, but you're still in the SEC championship race. So now it's every win, the importance gets magnified until you're out of it. Think of how big the game at South Carolina would have been in football had you won, because you're just beating LSU. And so
it kind of takes away from the LSU win, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah.
So every win gets bigger. Now the big difference is A&M's in the tournament. But because if you want to win a championship and if you want to get at least a 2 seed, you can't stumble. So every win, every game now is huge. And this Georgia game is enormous. And if you win, the Arkansas game is even bigger.
And it just keeps getting bigger. And by the way, the games against Auburn and Florida, Tennessee, those, so I saw a post on TexAgs.com. They were talking about the Auburn game potentially? I forget which one's on the weekend. The game day could be here?
Yeah, that could be.
Yeah.
Because, Auburn could be 1 and A&M's a top 10 team.
If they keep winning, they could be the top maybe 7, 8.
That's what I mean.
Or 6, yeah.
Keep winning. Because now once you lose, you're out of the you're still in the NCAA tournament, but you're probably out of the SEC championship discussion. So then, maybe the games won't be as important.
And if you're a top 4 seed, the SEC tournament, is easier because you get the double bye, right?
Double bye.
But it's also not as important if you don't win it, right? Because you're pretty secure being a 2 or 3 seed.
Yeah, if you get into if you go to the SEC tournament with a 4 seed, I would just about guarantee you've already secured
a 4 seed.
An NCAA tournament 2 seed.
Oh, a 2 seed, you think?
If you're good enough to be in the top 4 of the SEC tournament, you're probably guaranteed, if not a 2 seed, definitely a 3 seed.
Well, we've seen this committee before, my friend.
Yeah, but this is one of those times where they're taking it out of the committee's hands, really.
Yeah.
The committee can't argue. They can't screw A&M over.
And you know what? Credit to Buzz for recognizing the way the tournament looks at it and making these adjustments throughout the years that also fit what his team can handle. This year's team, being a veteran-laced team, can handle that non-conference schedule. A few years back, when they were so young, probably couldn't have handled. That's why they had an easier non-conference.
I don't know if they thought they had an easier non-conference like 2 years ago. I think they thought they had a really strong non-conference, but some of the teams weren't as good as they were projected to be. SMU, Memphis, for instance. This year, everybody was as good as they projected to be, and it
might be better, right?
Yeah, and it's definitely behooves A&M that they are an experienced team, because you need a battle-tested team to get through this grind that they've been in.
Can you imagine 12 or 13 teams, which I know you can imagine because it's being discussed, get into the tournament?
Yeah, I expect it to be.
What that says, again, just when your 13th best team gets in, at this point it would be Oklahoma?
Maybe Arkansas.
Yeah. That'd be 14 teams. That'd be ridiculous. But it could be, based on those standings. Yeah, you're exactly right about Arkansas. OB, you going to listen to the next segment?
Of course.
Josh Pate.
I like Josh Pate.
Brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors.
I like Academy Sports and Outdoors.
I like you.
Thank you.
You had a good show today.
It's always a good show when you're talking about Texas A&M sports.
And people were propping you up on the hoodie.
Yeah. Irma took care of me on my birthday.
OB, thank you, sir.
You bet.
When we come back on TexAgs, Josh Pate, followed by Charean Williams, followed by a full hour of Aggie basketball talk with Pounding the Rock, Luke and Tap, and Justin Lanham. All that and more. It is TexAgs Live. Good God Almighty, Josh Pate. A little WWE Raw here in a minute. Welcome into TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Our weekly conversation with Josh Pate, brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. They carry a wide selection of the best brands, including Easton, Rawlings, and Wilson. And at Academy, you can shop the latest bats, gloves, cleats, nothing but protective gear, training equipment, and much, much more. I said nothing. I meant clothing. Speaking of clothing, Josh Pate here on the Buppy's Catering Hotline. How was Raw yesterday?
I haven't been to a live WWE event since 2006. I've been largely sort of out of the product since then, wandered back every now and then for a WrestleMania, just kind of check it, don't like what I see. So last couple of years, what I've seen has been palatable. So I figured I'm in Nashville. They're here a lot. Next time they're here, I'm going to pop down to Bridgestone because it's like a 45-second walk for me. It was enjoyable. It was good. I got to admit, I'm not quite as up on the roster. David, it would be like if you took your niece, who kind of knows A&M football in theory, but doesn't really know the backup right guard situation. If you took her to a game, she'd enjoy it, the spectacle, the pageantry. But every now and then she's leaning over saying, hey, who's that? Hey, who's this? Hey, where's he from? It was kind of like that for me last night.
Well, I saw the picture of you in the background, so you did make your debut on WWE Raw as an actual character on the show. The other thing I was going to say is I don't watch wrestling anymore. It's been 30 years since I watched wrestling, maybe longer, right? But I can't get enough of Dark Side of the Ring. I can't, like that show on Vice, like I have to, I don't care if it's a wrestler I don't know about. I'm all in on those stories.
Do you notice right now there's an entire ecosystem? Because I'm a part of this too. Ironically, you mentioned that this may be what pulled me back towards even giving the new product a try. The Dark Side of the Ring series, which I would encourage people who couldn't care less about wrestling to watch. It's just fascinating. Yep. And also, there is an entire industry of nostalgia-based wrestling podcasting and YouTube channels. It's just former guys who were around in the 80s, 90s, early 2000s who have their own channels, and more people watch that stuff in the cumulative than watch the current product. And I actually think that's closely mirrored with some other things in society right now. Like, I believe the NBA trade situation is very much like that. There's not a nostalgia factor because it's happening in the here and now, but there's something that should be satellite to what the main product is. The main product for the NBA should be you're playing basketball games. A fraction of the people care about the games that care about the fact that Luka got traded to LA. And I look at that and I say, this makes no sense to me. Why would you get so worked up about the trade that involves one player on a basketball team going to another basketball team if you're not really going to ever watch the basketball team? It's just the soap opera. It's just the drama. So wrestling just said, well, we'll cut to the chase. We'll be a soap opera from the start. We'll admit to you that we're one. And then imagine how fun it's going to be to talk about all the ancillary stuff around this industry. So a bunch of people figured that out.
Well, the soap opera of college football kind of comes up, too, because all the subplots that we discussed, and I want to get into some of that with you. But I have a question about the Super Bowl. When you watch the Super Bowl, there's those who are so consumed with the NFL that they watch it for the NFL storylines. Do you watch it from hey, I watched Jalen Hurts play at Alabama, and I watched him at Oklahoma, and I saw what he was able to do, and all these SEC guys and all these dudes. How do you watch the Super Bowl or just the NFL in general?
Very much from a college lens, remembering like Chris Jones. You're watching him. If you're a pro guy and you're worried about his injury situation this particular year, but you're also watching him from the perspective of how dominant a force he is on the Chiefs front. I'm thinking about him coming up through the recruiting ranks in the state of Mississippi and how he was a 5-star even, coming out of that state, and how fierce the battle was, but also how hopeless it felt for any other school to try and pull him out of the state of Mississippi. I'm thinking about that kind of stuff. But with Hurts, I'm thinking about, yes, the story at Alabama, but then with Hurts in particular, David, I found myself thinking, wow, a bunch of people who kind of know Jalen Hurts played at Alabama, and he was part of that high-profile halftime benching, and then TUE comes in, second 26, Bama wins the title. That story is about to be told all over again, and a lot of people who don't know a lot about college football will hear it, and that's great because it's a wonderful story. And he goes to Oklahoma, overcomes all this adversity and doubt, which was legitimate, and he wins a Super Bowl in the end. Well, what I was thinking to myself was, I wonder how many people are going to remember he didn't transfer from Alabama after the national championship win. I wonder how many people are going to, and this would be a really fun one for you guys and girls watching this morning, I wonder how many people are going to go back, check out Bama's spring game, spring of 2018. He's still there. Check out the fan day they had in spring ball, or maybe even in fall camp. Check out the gaggle of reporters surrounding Jalen Hurts and him vocalizing his frustration and almost kind of snapping at folks, respectfully, but snapping at folks who were almost questioning, why are you still here? Why haven't you transferred yet? And then fast forward to December when Tua Tagovailoa goes down to injury and Jalen Hurts comes off the bench in the same building he had been benched in about 12 months prior and wins the SEC championship. I was just wondering, is the full well-rounded story of Jalen Hurts going to be told? No, it wasn't, but that's okay. That's why we're here.
Our audience is probably sick of me bringing this up, but like I watched the game the same way as you do, especially now. In my old role, I watched it from an NFL perspective, but in this role, I interviewed Jalen Hurts as a junior in high school when he was playing at Channelview, and I saw that young man and I saw his rise. I interviewed him when he was at Alabama, right? So like I see it through that perspective, and I like seeing people's growth when folks give up on you and you just bank on yourself, right? You're like, I'm going to show the world, because we read an article, Josh, about, I think it was right before the playoffs started, where they had him ranked as the 16th best quarterback in the league. And that was on NFL.com. This guy just won the MVP of the Super Bowl. So, yeah, he may not have all the intangibles that Patrick Mahomes has. The guy's got that winning DNA, doesn't he?
Yeah, it's beautiful that you can't quantify it. Because I remember going back to what I was talking about, even after that season where he got benched in the national championship game, I would be lying to you if I told you at that point or any point I saw a robust NFL future for Jalen Hurts. If you told me Jalen Hurts was going to go on to win a Super Bowl and be a central part of that Super Bowl win, I would have asked you at what position. That's probably what I would have asked you even when he was coming through Alabama, because I was one who doubted him. Look, man, I wish I could take what's in Jalen Hurts and put it in some of the five-star talent type guys, some of the transcendent talent type guys. But I never thought that he was going to have that kind of future at quarterback at the next level, to the point where I remember there was a question in that 2018 season about whether he should redshirt. After he played his 4 games, should you redshirt? He decided, no, I'm not going to redshirt. And that's why he was even available to come off the bench in the SEC title game. But I remember thinking, it's not such a bad idea, because he needs to preserve as much college football as he can. Because I'm thinking at that point, college football is kind of the apex. Like that's the pinnacle of his career. We're looking at the quintessential great college football player, and probably won't hear much from him after that at the pro level. And all it takes is one. It's just prime proof. All it takes is one person believing, as long as it's the person in the mirror, and you need one more to believe in you to give you a shot. That's what Jalen Hurts had. That's all he needed.
So I look at college football, Josh, and I think of highways and freeways in Texas, right? 59 and I-10 in Houston and 610, the Loop, they've been building it forever, like since I was a child, right? And sometimes I think about this NIL era in that same way. How long is it going to take to fix this freaking highway? Ross Dellinger just had he's always on top of these stories. Power Conferences this week took steps in creating a new entity to govern college sports, reshare system. This thing is moving at a snail's pace. There is progress. You almost have to be so patient to see the progress. What do you think about the latest revelations that Ross was reporting on?
Yeah, that was a big story to me, because if anyone hasn't read it, what he was painting through sourcing, of course, was a picture where there is an entire new governing arm and governing body of major college football, which would be a huge thing, because he also didn't just say the enforcement is going to switch hands. He said the enforcement's going to have teeth. Okay, so this is imagining this world, which they hope after April 7th, with the House decision either being confirmed or delayed again, they hope this is a reality, because in that world, the conferences can step up with some limited antitrust exemption from Congress, and they can say, hey, first off, we're handling enforcement now. This new body we created, we're handling the enforcement. And by the way, here are the rules. We're actually going to go by them. You're going to be sharing revenue with your players anyway. Anything in the way of NIL, above and beyond revenue sharing, better be legitimate NIL, because you're going to have to prove to us that what you're giving that right guard is fair market value, and you are actually going to be tasked with proving that, and we're going to have the power to investigate that and to enforce sanctions if it's not what it should be. Now, that doesn't exist right now. You can just do whatever you want to. If we get to that world, you're talking about a very, very radical pendulum swing back to the middle. It would be, David, it would be even more towards the middle than the old way of doing things were. And so then it would really be all about, it would be about evaluation, going and getting your players. It would be about development. The transfer portal would still be a thing, but I think the traffic in the transfer portal would reduce 75+%, because baked into that structure is the incentive to stay home. There is incentive that if I know I'm going to earn more as a sophomore than I did as a freshman here. Oh, and by the way, I earned as a freshman even though I was sitting on the bench, and I'll earn as a sophomore even if I'm sitting on the bench. There's far less incentive to transfer. A lot of guys transfer now don't want to. There's just money they can't turn down. So that story, I would encourage people to read it a couple of times because there's a lot in there. And again, it's all fingers crossed because no one knows. You could have this stuff struck down by, I think Claudia Wilkin is the name of the judge. I think she could, if she strikes it down August or April 7th, you just kind of go back to the drawing board. So everyone's in a wait and see mode.
Do you think the future of that does impact the transfer portal? Because yes, in the way you described it, people won't have to, but there's still going to be the bag out there to get you to transfer. Do you see a world where they say, look, I want our student athletes to be somewhat employees of the university to where there are, 48-month agreements or whatever it may be. Do you see that, or 24-month agreements?
Well, yeah, I think there's a desire for that. And I think the enticement to transfer, you're right, will still be there. But the enticement, what they're saying is the enticement better be that you're carving out a portion of your revenue sharing pool to offer to a player that's on another team. You better not be inducing them with money above and beyond that. Basically, you're enforcing a salary cap in college football. That's what you're enforcing. Now, the follow-up question that you asked there was, are we still going to have movement because there's not language in those papers that a player signs that limits that? I think they want the language. I think they want to get to a place, they want to have the best of both worlds. They don't want to call them employees because of all that entails. But they do want to pay them enough money to where there's sort of this quasi CBA and there's this quasi players union-esque representative that's willing to say, all right, you're going to pay the players $20+ million a year collectively. We'll agree to a little bit stronger transfer language in the papers they sign, scholarship papers, whatever you call those. Again, there are lawyers on every street corner waiting to challenge that. And that's kind of the reason it seems so uncertain is anyone in the room knows there's no way we walk out of this room with any kind of agreement that stands up totally to legal scrutiny. That's the way it is. And that's why I kind of hate this because I don't have a law background. Most people who just love college football and watch college football don't have a legal background. So you're used to trying to sit in the seat thinking to yourself, I kind of got a good idea where this is going to go. Because normally we're talking about who's going to win a football game. Now we're talking about who's going to win in a courtroom, which sucks because that's really not where I love the spotlight of the sport to be.
I encourage everybody to go listen to one of your most recent shows. You did and I'm going to let you kind of describe it, and then they need to go back and listen to it. But you did a segment where why A&M should still be considered a potential powerhouse, not to read too much into one season with Coach Elko. Just talk a little bit about those ingredients that you have seen for years there that you still think Olin's still in play, I should say.
Yeah, it was funny how when I did the segment, I was literally looking at those comments this morning. One of the first things I do is check our analytics on our channel every morning. So as you know, David, anything you say that someone disagrees with is clickbait. It cannot just be that someone has a difference of opinion. So me saying that A&M has powerhouse resources, powerhouse tools, was viewed as clickbait. To me, it's common sense. If I despised Texas A&M, I'd still have to admit that much. So the premise of what we were doing in the segment was a guy had asked me in a mailbag segment, do you think that A&M will ever be a powerhouse? So I was asking, well, how do you define powerhouse? Because you can do it one of two ways. It could either be a program that's got all of the boxes checked, whether it has or hasn't happened on the field, they've got what it takes, like got the ingredients in the kitchen, even if the meal's not on the table. Or it's a program that's already proving it, and they're Ohio State or they're Georgia. They're winning consistently every year. So Texas A&M has not been the latter to a consistent basis, but the former, the walking into the kitchen, opening the fridge, opening the pantry doors, the cabinets, and all the ingredients are in there. No one's ever been able to convince me that's not the case. So then the follow-up, the perceived gotcha moment when anyone like me makes the argument that A&M has got all the powerhouse ingredients they need is, well, if they've got it, why haven't they been able to make it happen? Well, I would argue twofold. Number one, the right head coach hadn't been there. And number two, you haven't had that collection of ingredients in College Station forever to the degree that you have what you have right now. I'd argue that's a post-Manziel concept. I'm not telling anyone here anything they don't know, but I'm talking to a guy in Spokane, Washington, who's never been to East Texas or Central Texas or West Texas in his life, and I'm trying to explain the unexplainable, and it is that one guy, sometimes a coach, sometimes a player, can transform a program's future forever if he's impactful enough, and Johnny Manziel did that in College Station, and now there are things available. There is a vision that's available there that's been made possible because of what happened a little over a decade ago. So in fairness, it's not like I'm talking about it being around for 100 years. So it's not the gotcha moment that people think it is when they say, well, if it's possible there, why haven't they won? Well, correct me if I'm wrong. What's the University of Tennessee done over the past 15 years? You think they don't have that collection of ingredients there? We go on the span of years in this sport. You don't get to simulate a season every week. So if you get yourself in the wrong situation from a hiring perspective or a head coaching perspective, staffing perspective, administration perspective, you can end up in the ditch for a little while.
Josh, let me follow that up with this because I think in sports, we always look at history, right? Like history in the good and history in the bad. This team has got the ability. The Steelers can withstand whatever head coach that they have. They're going to find ways to make the playoffs every year, yada, yada, yada. A&M's history, especially the last 25 years, hasn't been what we expect, right? Like, and not the powerhouse ingredients. How much should history count when talking about the future beyond the ingredients that you just talked about?
It should count if the reason for your past is still present. So that's why I have to always distinguish with Texas A&M. If we are talking about Mississippi State, all due respect, but if we're talking about Mississippi State, the things that have limited Mississippi State from winning the SEC in 2001 or 2011 or 2021 will still be there in 2031. The things that have limited Texas A&M from thus far winning the SEC, which is a pretty new concept still, but winning the SEC or making the college football playoff or whatnot, those, in my perspective, are largely self-inflicted from this point moving forward. Now, if we want to go back to Southwest Conference days or Big 12, Texas A&M was working from a slightly disadvantaged position. They don't work from a disadvantaged position today. Now, I'm talking about what you don't control. What Texas A&M doesn't control is this, that, and the other, but there is no team that badly outpositions them in those categories. It hasn't always been the case. So it is the case now and moving forward that Texas A&M got everything in front of them. They just got to make their plate so they can eat. I've not always been able to say that about them. So when we're talking about what the Wikipedia page says for A&M football and the history of it, that's not really all that relevant to me as it relates to me trying to forecast them moving forward. If we were talking about Mississippi State, David, you'd say, here's Mississippi State's record over the past 50 years. And I'd say, yeah, and largely it'll probably continue to be that way because the status quo has remained unchanged. The status quo has changed in recent history in College Station.
Josh, great stuff, man. Thanks so much, and thanks to Academy Sports and Outdoors. We'll talk to you next week.
Appreciate it, brother.
Later, man. Josh Pate, breaking it down on the Buppy's Catering Hotline. One of my favorite dudes. Great guy, great analyst. Awesome show if you haven't checked it out. We'll hit a break here. We'll come back with an open segment, get your text messages. What are your thoughts on what Josh just said there? And I think the point of the situation has changed for A&M. Mississippi State, their scenario is still the same. I think that is a relevant point when you're trying to forecast the future of Aggie football. Fratella Italian Cafe, awesome food there. If you love Italian food, even if you don't, you need to try it. It's that good when you go to Fratella's. They have all their Italian dishes made with love. They have fresh pasta. They've got the breadsticks. Who doesn't love breadsticks? Lasagna, famous cheesecake, proud partners of A&M Athletics, sharing a passion for food, and Aggie Athletics for fans everywhere. If you can't come to Frutella here in town, what you need to do is reach out to them because they'll ship their products nationwide so you can enjoy Frutella from the comfort of your home. Plus, you can find them every Saturday at the Memorial Villages Farmers Market in Houston. They're owned by the same family that opened Pino's in Houston, and they're proud to carry on that tradition, serving up the best Italian food in town. Come hungry, leave happy. It is Frutella. It's all about good food and great company. Frutella Italian Cafe. It is tricky to not pay attention to the show when you're the host of it. It's TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We're in the Rollo Insurance Studio. So Josh Pate getting some love on the message boards, on premium boards. And, of course, it became about somebody else 2 comments down. It was about somebody we had on the show yesterday. Not Buzz Williams. Not Michael Early. Not Billy. Not Olin. Anyway, we're going to continue talking some college football in this segment and some college basketball because we've got a few minutes to play with before we talk to Charean the Dream Williams from Pro Football Talk. But let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Maria Griglione is there. Maria, we got some love on the chat.
We did. So Chris Cobb.
We actually got no love.
Well,
Josh got some love.
Josh, but good enough. I'll take it.
We will take it.
Chris Cobb says on YouTube, Josh is so right about our Aggies. We will be a powerhouse in a couple of years.
One thing I know about Chris, is that Mr. Cobb?
Yes.
He is very passionate and very optimistic when it comes to A&M sports. I think I'm a roller coaster.
Really?
I think I go, it depends on the minute itself, right? In the moment.
Me too.
You're the same way?
Yeah, like the basketball game this weekend, I was standing on my couch like this.
Yeah, I'm the same. And Kate Nagley sits by me a lot of the football games. She knows it's like, if we're leading by 3, my mood is amazing, right? It is just a field goal. I feel good. I mean, I'm nervous, but I'm good, right? If we're down by 3, I'm saying words that I shouldn't say in Spanish out loud. I got RBF. I have RBF anyway, but I'm really RBF.
Me too.
You actually told me I had RBF a moment ago.
Oh.
You said I was intimidating with my RBF face, kind of.
I'm getting exposed here,
okay.
But
so look, it is very easy to look at history, especially when you're not an Aggie, right? If you are from another fan base, it's really easy to look at history and discount what the future could be because of failures of being a powerhouse in football. Every year we hear about A&M. But what Josh said right there is A&M is not in a position of weakness anymore, right? There are things in their control. Now, look, do they have the right coach in Coach Elko? I think they do. Yeah. I really do think they have the right coach in Coach Elko. Did they have the right coach in Coach Jimbo Fisher? I felt like it was until it wasn't.
That's how I feel.
See, you same wavelength.
We're on the same wavelength. Yeah. This is good.
Now, I will admit, I was very critical after App State for obvious reasons in that season, and then I had the back of my mind was like, I don't know if this is the guy, but he is a national champ. And I'm not trying to bring up Jimbo in the big picture. I guess my point is, we don't know if Coach Elko's the right guy or not, but I believe he is the right guy.
Yes. He's focusing on the future, not the present right now.
Well, he's focusing on now.
I'm talking about Chris. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Coach, I think Coach Elko's definitely focused on right now. But yes,
sorry,
Chris.
my bad.
But when we talk about future, I don't know if we can. No, if 25 is not a good football season, whatever your definition of not good, if you don't win at least double-digit games, if you don't win 8 games, whatever. I don't know what your definition is. My definition of progress is at least 9 wins, which I thought they were maybe going to do this year, especially when they were 7-1, but they didn't get there, right? So what your definition of future of progress is, that's up to you. But I am not ready to make a decision on this regime based on this season. I'm going to look at the 3-4 year stretch. Now, there is pressure to win this year.
Yes.
But when we're talking about, things that are holding A&M back, you can't use past failures or past not making the mark consistently to dictate what the future is, especially, it looks like Kate's got an opinion on this. Kate, I can see what you guys can't see. He grabbed the microphone this is, let me tell you what's up, David. Go ahead, Kate.
Well, so I think that, thinking about this season, this schedule for this season it's obviously similar, if not the exact same opponents for the most part. Yep. But you have to think a lot of those games that were really hard this season, a lot of those tough opponents, those were home games. Those are games on the road this year. You're playing in Austin. You're playing at Notre Dame. You're playing in Death Valley. Those are tough road games, and so I think that you have to keep that in mind when thinking about year 2 under Mike Elko.
You're right, but guess what I'll do? I'll do a counter. All right, I'll be Johnny Topper, Kate. I don't know if Missouri's as good this year. I don't know if Notre Dame's as good this year. I don't know if Texas is as good this year. I don't know. By the way, I don't know if A&M is as good, right, on the defensive line. We don't know. I am fairly certain, and I think they will be really good on the defensive line. I am fairly certain the offense will be better this year. Fairly certain. I'm willing to bet on it. If I'd bet Zach's money, right? I'm willing to bet Zach's money that their offense will be better. Their defense is a TBD, but I can make an argument why it's going to be better. The secondary is going to be better, guys. It is. The linebackers will be as good or better. Why? Because consistency, the time with the team. My English is really bad sometimes. I'm from Texas. Anyway, defensive line I have a lot of questions about. But if you want to be today up, I'm not optimistic or pessimistic. I need to hit a break, but I'm not optimistic or pessimistic right now. I'm still trying to figure things out. But if you want to be optimistic, the offense will be better, and the defense could be better. And Missouri won't. Do you have Kate? Do you have next year's schedule up on a graphic so we can kind of go quickly through it? If not, no big deal. I mean, obviously, I know Notre Dame is going to be tough on the road to open up the season. That's always a team that made it to the national championship game. Have a new quarterback, new defense. But like you go to I think Florida will be better, but you get them at Kyle. Okay. Arkansas, will they be better? You're at Arkansas for the first time in a long time. I still think A&M's a better team, regardless. As of today, LSU, they're supposed to be better. I don't know. They're supposed to be. South Carolina's coming here. You're going to tackle that game. Lenore Sellers will be tackled in that game. I'm telling you now. I can tell you November the 15th right now. At Texas is going to be probably in the mix for the playoff again. I know they got that tough Ohio State game. They have a little tougher schedule this year, but it's the same schedule, not that tough from an SEC perspective. But Texas will be a very difficult opponent again on the road. But I don't know how the other teams are going to be. But instead of going line by line about what the season, I want to go back to what Josh Pate's point was, which you can't look at the future only by looking at the past if there are certain ingredients in the future that have changed. That's where I'll leave it at. When we come back, Charean Williams of Pro Football Talk. If your organization or business is looking for an opportunity to engage with Aggies, you need to check out the Association of Former Students, who bring Aggies of all ages together during marquee events held throughout the year. We're talking about the big ones like Aggie Ring Day, All Aggie Hullabaloo, The Gathering. They all welcome tens of thousands of guests, and there are many sponsorship and vendor opportunities available to get your brand in front of those attendees. These events offer a wide variety of both digital and in-person options to promote your brand in front of those attendees. This includes title sponsorship naming, on-site presence, activation, recognition and social media posts, and much, much more. There's also advertising opportunities in both the Texas Aggie Magazine and the Aggie News newsletter, which are seen by over 230,000 people. So if your business is ready to engage with Aggies, choose a partner that's been with the organization supporting the Aggie Network for over 140 years. For more information on options available through the association, please email sponsorships@aggienetwork.com. We are back on TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. We go to the Puppies Catering Hotline. Charean Williams, Pro Football Talk, Aggie Hall of Famer. Aggie, great here on the program. Charean, good morning. Doing pretty good. I mean, I don't know if you've paid attention. I know you have. I'm kidding here, Charean. But Aggie sports right now, like, there's a lot of great things happening, from Aggie women's tennis to the baseball team to the basketball team, like a lot track and field, a lot of good stuff. Charean, I think from a basketball perspective, like, we sometimes forget what A&M basketball used to be like, right? And there were some good years early, like when you were here. I know there were some good years, but like, what has happened to this basketball program since Billy Clyde and his first few teams that went to the Sweet 16, and what happened with Mark Turgeon afterwards, and Billy Kennedy, and obviously now with Buzz Williams. Consistently a really, really good basketball program.
It's a great deal of fun. And, you know, if you don't know, the Final Four, I think, since San Antonio, so I've already kind of looked that up, and not getting ahead of ourselves, I know, but yeah, it's been fun to watch.
Charean, I don't know, like, if you can recall games per se, but we were having a segment earlier, which is the best win of the season, and you look at some of the ranked wins: Purdue number 7, Texas Tech in the top 15, yeah. Ole Miss, Missouri this past weekend, they were undefeated. Do you have one that kind of stands out when you're like, man, that game meant so much more than we realized at that time?
Oh, boy. You probably look back at the Purdue game, because at the time it's like, okay, we beat Purdue. Good. I don't know that, or at least I didn't know that Purdue was going to be as good as what they are now. So that's the one I kind of look back and go, that was a really good win, and didn't realize that at the time how good of a win that was. But, I think the way they've come back, the OU game to me was huge. The way they came back without Wade Taylor and won that game, I thought was tremendous. I think that was the one, right? OU, when they came back, they're way far down. That to me was kind of showed the fight and grit and heart of this team doing it without Wade Taylor. That's the one I kind of point to. Is that gave me an idea of what this team is made of. I was like, they're good. They're really, really good. And so I kind of point to that one. But the Purdue game is the one I just didn't realize how good of a win that was. And now we look back at it, we're like, wow, that's a really good win.
Charean, talk to me about the Super Bowl experience this year. Just what is it, your 30th Super Bowl you've covered? And just kind of take me through the whole thing and the emotions of the game.
Yeah, it was a great week. It was a really downer of a game. I just wanted a good game. I don't particularly like either team and don't dislike really particularly either team. So I just wanted a good game. I think like most of the nation did, and I think got disappointed from that standpoint of the Eagles just came out and took it to them. Now, I thought the Eagles would win. I picked the Eagles to win. I picked it 20-20, but I thought it would be a fairly close game, and it just wasn't. And I think the fact that what impressed me the most about the Eagles is they didn't blitz one time, 42 dropbacks, 0 blitzes. They got there with their front four. And it was almost like they knew what Patrick Mahomes' first read was. They took that away, and by that time, the pass rush was there. And he got sacked more than any other game in his career, 6 sacks, 16 pressures. They just played great on that front. I have an MVP vote, 1 of 16, and I voted for Josh Sweat because I don't think they would have won that game without the pressure that their front four put on Patrick Mahomes. And I think it shows in college, high school, pro, whatever, we wouldn't rank Jalen Hurts as a top 5 quarterback, I don't think. Now, his stature just went up some, winning a Super Bowl, I get that, but I don't think any of us would have him in the top 5 of quarterbacks in the league. But when you have a efficient quarterback who he has 1 turnover, but basically doesn't turn the ball over, can run the football as well as throw the football, and you have a really, really elite defense that can, with the front four that can get out the quarterback without blitzing, I think you see what a team like that can do. They were the best team in the NFL. Now, they might have lost that game because they didn't have the best quarterback, they didn't have the best coach, but they showed you they were the best team in the NFL. And I said that before the game. This isn't something I'm saying after the game. I said it before the game, that the quarterback and the coach of the Chiefs was better, but everything else on the Eagles was better, and they had the better team, the better personnel, and they showed that. And they played to their potential and did what they needed to do. But I think they showed you how you can win without having a great quarterback, without having a Patrick Mahomes, without having a Tom Brady. You can win like that with a quarterback like that if the rest of your team is that good. A good running game and a good defense can win you a whole lot of games. They can win you a championship.
I saw this note that our staff put together. Mahomes and Kelsey, the most prolific quarterback receiver combo in Super Bowl history with 389 yards. And I thought to myself, that's not as many yards as I expected. But I guess it is a lot of yards. I don't know why I would have expected more yards.
Yeah. Well, for as many as they played in, but, he doesn't have that many, 100-yard games and whatever. But, yeah, it's going to be interesting this offseason to see what happens with Travis Kelce with his contract, because it's obvious he's lost a step. Is he going to retire? Is he going to come back? If he comes back, is he going to take a pay cut? I would expect him to take a pay cut, stay with Patrick Mahomes for the end of his career, but it's going to be an interesting offseason, I think, for the Chiefs and for Travis Kelce. And I think, the loss just shows that they need help at receiver and they need help in the offensive line. They overcame a lot of those deficiencies with, frankly, a lot of luck this season that they had go their way. They had field goals, doink off. They had, last-second field goals doink in and all different things that happened late in games that really was luck. It wasn't necessarily skill that they had happen. They hid a lot of those deficiencies they have, but it's obvious even with Rashee Rice coming back, I think they need upgrades at receiver and they need upgrades in that offensive line if they're going to try to keep that dynasty going, because, the Eagles have delivered sort of a blueprint of how to beat the Chiefs, but the problem is, can other teams get there with a front four without blitzing? There are not many teams that can do that. There are not many teams that have the 4 pass rushers that the Eagles have. And they're as good as they are and can rotate other pass rushers in there, other defensive linemen in there. They're just really deep on that defensive line. They've committed to it. I think they have 9 first-round draft picks on their offensive on their defensive line. I think that's what it was. They used 9 high draft picks on their defensive line, which shows you that they are committed to offensive and defensive lines being really, really good, and they are really, really good in the offensive line and defensive line, and I think that's where it starts on any football team.
Talking to Charean Williams here on TexAgs Live. Charean, where does Aaron Rodgers play next year?
Yeah, I don't know. To me, after what I saw this year, if I'm a general manager, I'm looking a different direction to try to find me a quarterback. I don't know that he gets an opportunity. It's sort of like Bill Belichick. He saw he didn't get an opportunity and he went back to the college ranks and wasn't going to get an opportunity. And I think it could be the same with Aaron Rodgers. I think he might not get an opportunity. I think Ryan Tannehill wanted an opportunity this year, and that call never came. And his career may be over, although we haven't officially heard that. So I think it could be the same with Aaron Rodgers. I think he could be forced out by not having a suitor. I think teams will look the other way if he signs. I think it will be later than sooner. I could be totally wrong on this, but I think you're going to look at your other options before you go, okay, Aaron Rodgers is probably the best option that we have. But, a veteran team like the Steelers, they've shown that they can get to the postseason with kind of any quarterback. So if he's going anywhere, maybe it's Pittsburgh. If he takes like a low ball deal, nobody else is trying to go after him. He could end up in Pittsburgh on a team that's kind of built to win. Now again with the defense and they haven't committed as much to their offensive line, but a defense that's really, really good, and I think they can have a good running game. Najee Harris may be gone; they may be doing something else there, but I think that's a place. If I was going to guess on a place for him to resume his career, continue his career, I think it would be Pittsburgh.
Charean, thanks so much. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, David.
Charean Williams, Pro Football Talk here on TexAgs Live. We'll hit a break here. We'll come back with some SEC notes. Maria's got those for us. A moment for Caldwell Country Chevrolet, Highway 21 in Caldwell, online at caldwellcountrychevrolet.com. They have a great selection of commercial vehicles, flatbed trucks, several medium-duty trucks for those heavier jobs. They are locally owned and operated by Aggie alumni. They have complimentary pickup and delivery for their service customers, and they have free oil changes for life on the purchase as long as you own that vehicle. It is Caldwell Country Chevrolet, a proud sponsor of Aggie Athletics with a strong and committed sales staff that's been serving the Brazos Valley for many, many years with satisfying all those customer needs. They are the premier dealer for commercial vehicles for all of your small business needs. And remember, it's about a 15-minute drive, the edge of Bryan to the beginnings of Caldwell. Short conversation away, but you'll see the difference when you step on the lot and do business with the great people at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. Highway 21 in Caldwell, online, caldwellcountrychevrolet.com. Hey, it's TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We are in the Rollo Insurance Studio. Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Maria Griglione has some SEC notes for us.
I do. In the new college basketball AP rankings, Missouri fell 6 spots to number 21 after losses to A&M and Tennessee. But Florida moved up 3 spots to the 3rd seed after a huge upset win against number 1 ranked Auburn.
They beat them down in that game.
Yeah, I heard. Florida looks to stay hot against number 22 Mississippi State today at 6 p.m. In women's basketball, Texas jumped 1 spot to the 3rd seed, and South Carolina fell 2 spots to the 4th seed after Texas upset South Carolina on Sunday. Then we have Alabama football star wide receiver Charean Williams, who just finished an amazing rookie season, just posted about his new NIL sponsorship with beauty brand Sally Henson that is valued at $2.3 million. Williams stated that he will be using Sally Henson for all his nail polish needs as he carries on the tradition of painting his younger sister's nails before every game.
That's pretty cool.
I thought so.
Anything else you want to provide? I know we got a couple of text messages coming in on the text line.
We did get text since we're moving into a full basketball segment next hour. Jesse from Louisville, Kentucky says, to this point, I think we're deserving of a 2 seed. Don't think we're worse than 3 based on the season as a whole. With games coming up against Tennessee, Auburn, and Florida, if we're able to get 1 or 2 of those and win most of our other games, we have an argument for a 1 seed.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
Maybe.
but I don't know.
We'll see.
I tend to look at these things like, how are we going to feel a week from now if we go 1-1? We go 2-0. Like I look at all scenarios, right? Mm-hmm. And I know one loss, because it wasn't that long ago from the last loss. It's been a couple weeks now, but where you're like, ooh, I don't even know if we're going to be a top 5 seed, 6 seed, because you look at what's ahead.
Yeah.
Just take care of the game in front of you. They got Georgia tonight.
1 step at a time.
And I know that sounds like coach speak. It is coach speak, but there's a reason for it. If you start, we as fans and analysts, we can look at a potential 2 seed. The basketball team itself, their full focus is on a Georgia team that is due to win, a Georgia team that has struggled on the road, that can beat really good teams. Yeah. They can. They've been knocking on the door of doing it. They just haven't done it. So A&M plays their brand of basketball. They take care of business here. They better take care of business then against Arkansas. Everything will sort itself out as long as you win the games you're supposed to, and hopefully win 1 or 2 against the teams that you're not expected to beat. And then
hopefully
you're talking about a 2 seed. All right, we'll have more. It's TexAgs Live. think we're pounding the rock here in a minute. We're definitely pounding the pebble at first. TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We are in the Rollo Insurance Studio. Luke Evangelist. I bet Tap said he was coming, so hopefully have Tap here in a moment. Luke, good morning, buddy.
Good morning, David.
It's so strange to see you here in studio.
I know. I actually work here again.
Well, have you had a meeting yet?
Later today.
Today. Anyway, you tweeted some stuff this weekend. By the way, you're getting a lot of love on other shows.
Right.
Yeah. What is up with that?
I've built quite the fan base from tweeting, Bronny.
Tweeting stats.
Right, exactly. And if anyone has told me anything worth noting, because I like to soak in knowledge from the other professionals here, Ryan Brauninger, I have to give credit for. He told me good things come to those who tweet. So I've just taken that mantra and really run with it.
So you're saying those of us who don't tweet very often, not that good of things happen?
No. Bronny just said, tweet. Like he just told me to keep tweeting. So really, Ryan, thank you for that advice.
Yeah, and what does Billy say to that?
He says he likes 96% of what I tweet, but it's about eliminating that 4% of old habits.
Old habits. Yeah. All right. So let's talk about A&M being number 8 in the AP, 9 in the coaches poll. OB and I started the show. Like, it doesn't matter, but it is a talking point to celebrate what they've done so far.
Yeah, the AP poll is absolutely meaningless. It means nothing. Like, if anything, it's detrimental to discussions about tournament resumes and what really matters going into seeding and whatnot. But it is helpful from a national perspective to start getting that respect. And I know the AP voters don't watch every game. Typically, there's oddities of like Florida. Someone had Florida ranked like 12th in the country. Like not every AP voter is reliable, but in the aggregate, when you're getting respect as a top 10 team, that's notable because just having that number by your name means something to the analysts that don't always get to watch A&M, but they can say, oh, A&M's playing like the number 8 team in the country.
Right.
I should probably go check them out. Whereas before, really, that Purdue win was the first time you saw A&M getting national recognition. Before, it was cool. Now, it's kind of cool to be on A&M and pick them as like a trendy 2 seed or a dark horse even in the tournament.
So I'm going to ask you the same question I asked OB. I'll ask Tap when he gets to the studio because I know he's here. What's the best win of the year and why? Give me your reasons.
Purdue.
Is it just because of the ranking, or is there more?
Well, it's a multitude of factors. It's because they're probably going to win the Big Ten. It's how you beat them and where you beat them. It's a neutral court, but you had to essentially play within like viewing distance of Purdue's campus. I don't know how many people were there, probably 18,000 people, and 17,550 were Purdue fans. So you're basically playing a road game in an environment bigger than their normal gym. It was also how you beat them with Wade being injured down the stretch with the last minute of the game. And I believe it was Manny who had to go in and make 4 free throws to seal the game. So it was how you win, where you win, and who you beat.
Tap, how you doing, buddy?
Good morning, guys. Sorry, it's been a little while.
It's been a minute. But I've heard you on some broadcasts. You're doing great.
It was fun. I've had, John Thornton had another grandchild and got to go play grandpa. So Andrew was nice enough to ask me to make one trip and did a home game against OU. And, so it's just a different perspective watching him. You can watch him close, but just to sit right there courtside and just see the physicality, compared to the women. Pharrell Payne's a man.
He is a man. He is a man. So what is your opinion of the best win of the year?
The last one.
The Missouri one?
No, I'm just saying all of them. I mean, I'm coach speak right there. The last game was the most important. The next game is now the most important. But I agree with what Luke was saying. All those things go into play. You look at the rankings and you go, didn't we beat them head-to-head? I thought head-to-head meant something. But it doesn't, and again, they take so many different things that go into it. But, again, going at that times, I think there were still so many questions. And I still think a lot of people have whatever battered Aggie syndrome, whatever. Okay, are we going to have that consecutive loss streak that we've kind of gotten accustomed to over these last few years? So there's always scare, and this team's never just going to blow anybody out. So even if we get ahead, when are they going to let the team come back in? So I just think, again, if you look at it on paper, I think it's Purdue, but I just think, like y'all were talking about on the way here or last, last segment, it's the next game that's the most important.
It is the next game. But if Ole Miss played Purdue, if Oklahoma, Missouri beat, who wins those games?
Purdue.
You think Purdue beats Ole Miss?
Somebody fact check me, but I'm pretty sure Purdue did beat.
Oh, they already played them? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you think about if all those teams played against each other, SEC teams versus Purdue?
Well, what I think the SEC would have is I always talk about the athleticism of the SEC, and I think it goes back to where they play, and maybe if it's similar to that. I think it might be a tougher matchup, the physicality, but I'd still put my money on some of the SEC teams because you don't have any games off in this league. I mean, every single game matters, and so I would have to put money. If they said who would you bet on, I'd say whatever SEC team is playing.
Did you fact check yourself?
Purdue beat Ole Miss.
They did
in non-conference, but I would take Alabama, Auburn, Florida, Tennessee over anybody in the country, and A&M.
And
anyone in the country.
Yeah. Okay.
But see, I always still think it's how you're playing now, not what you were doing pre-conference.
Sure, but when you're doing it both, when you're doing it then and you're still doing it now, which I think is like a testament to what A&M's been able to do.
Absolutely.
That's why I can celebrate the 8th ranking in the AP. That doesn't mean anything, but you look at who they've beaten on the way, right? You've beaten SEC teams on the way. You've beaten a Purdue team who's a top 10 team, as you just said, is going to be. And the way A&M has won, last-second shots, comebacks, weathering some offensive droughts. So I asked the Georgia insider, Jordan Hill, earlier, Georgia's really known for their defense, right? Mm-hmm. I almost feel like it's an advantage for A&M because A&M struggles offensively anyway, and they know how to win. So you can be really good at it. It doesn't matter. Can you stop us from getting offensive rebounds?
Yeah, well, Georgia's known for their defense, but the reason they've lost 6 of their last 8 was actually because of their defense. They've given up 78.5 points per game in their last 5 road games, and then their last 2 times against AP top 10 opponents, they've given up 89 and 90 points. Now, A&M doesn't really have the offense to put up those numbers, but their defense has been what's been holding them back as of lately. They still have a top 25 defense, but it was more like top 15 before they went on this losing streak. But yeah, it's all about rebounding and keeping Ace and Newell at bay.
I think this is an easy question. I'm going to ask you 2 very obvious, easy questions, but I want answers here, okay? Who has been A&M's best player? Who is A&M's best player? Which I think we know the answer to that. Who's A&M's most consistent player?
You got it first.
Oh, appreciate that. Most consistent? Gosh,
Terrell Payne. It's got to be, right?
Well, I was getting to him.
Oh, sorry. My bad.
I've already talked about. I already mentioned Pharrell that he's a man.
Yeah.
But the difference is they have that person that's a threat inside, and it's opened up things for the perimeter. But Pharrell has definitely been the most consistent. And then Wade doesn't have to carry the team like he has in the past, and I think that's helped us. And I think the other side of it too is, and I mentioned before, this is the time of season. I always thought A&M, because of the style they play with the defense and everything, might start wearing down, but I think they have the depth this year, and I think they're not going to wear down at the end of this season.
Most consistent player is C.J. Wilcher because he's going to hit 1-3, at least 1-3 every game. Now, I would like him to take more than just 2 shots and play more than 10 minutes, but he's going to get a 3.
Why do you think he doesn't play more than 10 minutes? Is it because of the defense?
Because it's the defense and rebounding 100%, which I know there's a lot of discussion on if he should play more than another player on the team, but Buzz values defense and rebounding. But I would like to see, and they've done this before, situationally using C.J. Wilcher. Like when he's in the game, drop a play for him immediately. And if that doesn't work, go back to him again. Like don't put the ball in his hands to dribble. Have him coming off a screen so he can just catch and shoot. And that's worked. When he makes his shots, he can get hot faster than everyone on the team not named Wade Taylor.
Talk a little bit about that too, because a guy like C.J. Wilcher, I think he's got to get his shots. Because if you just use him for a spot up here and there, he's not going to be in the rhythm that a good shooter like himself should be getting.
But I think Luke hit it. It's just the defense. If you see him, and he is a liability. I mean, again, it's not because they play such great team defense, but I think they cause such a rotation when he's in that they don't really always have to do. He's really struggles one-on-one, I think, defensively. Just has kind of slow feet on the defensive end. He knows how to get that shot off quick, and he knows how to run to get off of that. But because of the way we play, I don't think Buzz thinks he can get him in to where he's going to get into that rhythm and get a lot of shots. But you're right. He's in. Let's go. And if now it becomes that threat, now they're going to start doubling him. Now he's got to learn, get rid of the ball and get it to that open player.
Tap, I want to keep it with you. Wade, that final shot, to me, I've seen him do the catch and shoot, obviously, but I feel like that's a part of his game that he has really grown at because there was a time you'd have to dribble to get that shot off. That was a completely catch and shoot kind of situation.
You think about it, and I don't know. I've never spoken to Wade about this, but you look at what Steph Curry does. I mean, he's just catch, shoot, catch, shoot. I'm sure Wade's been looking and working on that, trying to get to be more, better at that. But you're right. But still what impressed me the most about that play is what I read is that really was supposed to be Anderson taking the ball to the hole because they thought everybody was going to go to Wade when he came off that screen. And just the ability for the team to be flexible and react, and for Anderson to just basically make a blind pass and lead Wade to get there. And that ball just hit his hands. And sometimes it's better for athletes not to think. You just catch and shoot. And that's what Wade did.
A little bit on that, Luke, because, I mean, it's a part of his game that I remember a couple years ago we had a segment. I was like, he's so good, but I want to see him come off screens and shoot.
Yeah.
With this year's team, he's allowed to do that a little bit more.
Yeah, and it's awesome because the numbers aren't popping off the page. Like, he's not going for 20 a night, but his game has really developed despite the numbers not being there. And that's because he's not asked to do everything. He can just play a more well-rounded game. He can now dish to anybody he wants. They've got way more weapons than they've ever had in this offense for him, and that's going to free him up. Whereas before he had to dribble because all the attention was on him. Now you can't just isolate and focus in on Wade Taylor. Zurich Phelps could get you for 15. Pharrell Payne is now a presence inside. So having other pieces around him has freed him up to be able to do more. And now that he's able to do more different things, he's able to perfect those crafts. And it's not just dribble. Okay, if I don't get fouled inside, then I'm going to have to launch a three from way outside. So he's able to do a lot more now.
And we have two other players that like to dribble.
Exactly,
with Zurich and Manny.
So what have you seen from Zurich recently? All right, because he had his struggles, and I don't think he had great numbers the other night against Missouri, but what have you seen that has, and Tappy starts us off, given you optimism that his game is starting to round out in form?
I just think he and Wade are still getting more comfortable with each other on the floor, and it's tough. You bring somebody in and, it's his team, but what I do best is taking the ball out of his hand. Wade's accustomed to having the ball in his hand. We saw what he did when Wade was injured, so, I mean, that doesn't need to say. But I think now he understands, if I penetrate, I might need to look and kick out. It's not always about me finishing. And to me, I think that's the part I like seeing.
And he also had like a quietly efficient, 14, 15 points. I know he missed 2 free throws, but only getting 1 point from the free throw line and still hitting double digits. You got to take that every time with Zurich Phelps. I mean, it's definitely interesting because when you look at transfers into A&M, they have to play that style on defense. Sure, like you're not going to play for Buzz Williams if you don't match their defensive intensity and their rebounding. But what Zurich can do on offense, the talk was always, okay, who's going to be the next Boots? He's not quite Boots, but you do see some characteristics of him still being able to drive hard to the rim, get fouled, and now he's got to make the free throws when he gets there. But he can shoot from the outside. He can go inside. And I know he's not the biggest player. I know he's not as big as Boots, but he's a manageable representation of Boots. And you don't need someone to be 100% Boots to replace his production. He can play his own game in this A&M offense and still have success.
It's if you go through it, I had this conversation with Andrew Monaco, I think in South Carolina. You go back to, okay, you had Zurich kind of replaced Boots kind of replaced Quentin Jackson, because in Buzz's offense, that shot clock's got to get down to the 7 and 6, 8. Who is the guy you're getting the ball to? And I think Zurich has filled that spot.
So I don't remember the exact tweet. I'm going to start calling you McGee because you're a film room guy now. You're going back and watching film.
Yeah.
Now, are you watching the entire game or you're watching sections of the game?
Well, when it's, first of all, it's different when it's home and away. When it's a home game, I'm watching the game. But when it's an away game, like I'm doing a lot of different things for TexAgs. So I don't always get to watch the play. I'm kind of following it on stat broadcast and then looking up. So I try and go back and watch all the away games, or at least the highlights of it. Because to me, it's just like I'll see a play written out on stat broadcast, get something ready for it, but I don't always get to watch the play. So I did go back and watch the last couple minutes of all the game winners. And if you want to...
let's go through it, shall we?
Let's go through it. I mean, Solomon Washington was the key because everyone's going to talk about the great three-point shot to beat Oklahoma, Ole Miss, and Missouri from your best 3 guards, and rightfully so, but that doesn't happen without getting a stop or a missed free throw on the other end. And the person who secured that rebound all 3 times was Solomon Washington. And I think people also forget, because it was the day of the Texas game, he had the game-winning block and score against Rutgers, and that was against a future lottery pick, a future top 3 pick in the NBA draft. So you talk about who's going to get that bucket offensively to win the game. All you need to know is that Solomon Washington is going to make sure there's an opportunity for A&M to take the lead or at least tie it late.
So if we're going back to the best player, most consistent, you just made a good argument for Solo.
Yeah.
I mean,
it was last year, right, that Solo got robbed of making all SEC defense, right? Is that right?
Yeah, the A&M's had a couple players get robbed. Like Dexter Dennis should have been on it 2 years ago.
Absolutely. Do you think he has a chance this year?
It's possible. It's definitely possible. I think he's going to need to stay healthy for the rest of the year, but the SEC has a lot of great defenders, and especially like at his size and athleticism, he makes a great case for it, but when has A&M ever gotten the benefit of the doubt in a player poll or any poll of that matter?
Well, I think Pharrell and Solo are worthy, but they're going to take one of them's not. Both of them are getting on.
Well, let's do this. Let's do a second segment. That'll work for you guys. And because we got to talk Henry, because Henry's production recently, not just his last game, in general, he has just been a beast. So we'll talk about that and go more specific on some other players. Right now, we're talking Heritage Films. They make documentary films about families, about family businesses, about family ranches. It's an awesome deal. They tell your story, right? Your family story in a Netflix-style documentary that you're going to want to watch with your family. It'll probably be emotional. It's an awesome, cool thing that Chance does. 2-hour documentaries. He'll go to your house. He'll light it up. He'll ask the questions. He'll put it all together. And about 8 to 10 weeks later, you have yourself a 2-hour documentary that you're going to be able to watch with your family and share with the next generation and the generation after that. If you're thinking to yourself, why do I want a family story? Like, I know my dad's story. I know my mom's story. I know our family business story. Well, the reason is the clarity, right? Getting the voice of the person involved in the story and then sharing that with the next generation and the generation after that. The website is yourheritagefilm.com, yourheritagefilm.com, 713-893-8341, 713-893-8341. It is Heritage Films. Pounding the Rock here on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. Tap and Luke with us. Guys, I feel like Henry Coleman sometimes is a forgotten, really good player. Mm-hmm. Like you know he's good, you like him, but you sometimes forget about him. I'm not saying you guys in particular.
Taken for granted.
Yeah.
But I think, Henry came in that first year from Duke, and I think we are like, we've never seen anybody on the basketball court for A&M with that type of body.
Yeah.
And then he had that phenomenal first game, and, he almost couldn't live up to that moving forward. And then, I think he sometimes he would just get lost in the shuffle. And, even this year, he was a coming off the bench guy, at the beginning of the season. And I'm not sure what Buzz knew what his role was going to be, but he's worked his butt off to become an integral part of this team.
Yeah, the story with Henry for the last couple of years has always he's going to start strong. He's going to average double figures for non-conference play. But then as the size and athleticism catches up in the SEC, his points are going to drop, his rebounds are going to drop. That was trending towards happening this year, but since about probably right after the Alabama and Kentucky back-to-back losses, he has turned it back up. And A&M's now 4-1 when he plays at least 20 minutes in SEC play. And in that time, he's averaging over 10 points and 7 rebounds per game. And I mean, you look at the Missouri game, he had like 8 rebounds before he even blinked. Like we didn't even play 8 minutes in the game, and he had 5-6 rebounds. So you can't say enough about what he's done. I know he only had 6 points, but if you're going to grab 16 rebounds, you got to take that any day with him.
And then make 2 big free throws at the end of the South Carolina game.
Well, and when I talk about what Henry did, earlier I did the performance of the week. I kind of lumped him and Pharrell together because between them, you got 20 rebounds? I think Pharrell had 4. I might be wrong.
Yeah.
There. And points wise,
26.
I mean,
Pharrell had 20.
From your front court, right? Plus what you get from your back court, which is always good, right? So I mean, you're going to win those games on the road when you get those kind of numbers.
Yeah, I believe. No, that's not right. But I was going to say this is like the first time they've had 3 players in double figures without any bench scoring, really, all SEC season. A&M was top 15 in bench scoring coming into the Missouri game, and they only had 6 points from their entire bench, which is crazy because normally the bench is probably going to combine for like 25, maybe 30. But for A&M to be so top-heavy against Missouri and still win is pretty remarkable. So let's navigate through tonight and ahead. There's Georgia game. What are some things? What are some key things to look for, Luke? Asa Newell is another lottery pick that A&M is going to have to contain. They've had Dylan Harper, they've had Ace Bailey, Trey Johnson, Jeremiah Fears, and Asa Newell is just the next person in line, but he's a different player than all 4 of those guys. He's 6'11". That's going to be Pharrell Payne. You're not going to put Jace Carter on him. You're not going to let anyone smaller than 6'6" guard him. And he is the engine to their entire offense. When he scores double digits, they're going to win more often than not. When he doesn't score double digits, they lose every single time. And he's the 3rd most efficient player in the SEC, 3rd in field goal percentage at like 55, I think, percent. And A&M has struggled with bigger guys who are top 5 in field goal percentage in the league. You look at Jalen Moore, who just had 22 points on them. You look at Colin Murray-Boyles, who leads the league in field goal percentage. He just had 22 points on you. So you can't let Asa Newell get up to 16, 17, 18 because he's averaging 15. And when he goes above that, it's a recipe for disaster for the other team.
But I think a lot of times those big guys get them because of the way we play defense and we have to rotate. We can't just say, okay, Pharrell, you're staying there. He's got to help other way. And even Colin Murray-Boyle, at South Carolina, we held him in check for the longest time and did it. I'm really more concerned from not so much moving forward. I feel like at some point, and I hope it doesn't happen, we have that mental lapse. Because, every game is close, and you see it in the NBA all the time. Those guys just no-show. I'm not saying they're going to no-show, but at some point, to be honest with you, I'd rather them have it now, sooner than certainly later.
Well, but also, Buzz's teams around now turn it on. Right? Yeah. And maybe they're in the middle of turning it on earlier than we expected. Maybe there's another level yet to go, Luke. Well, you would hope there's another level to get to because I haven't walked away from a game and said, oh my goodness, they just played their best game probably since December. Since they beat Purdue and Texas Tech, I haven't really been like, they just played a complete game and they really wowed me. They're winning games that are scrappy and dirty.
and you have to come from behind from 18 to win them, or you're down 8 with 2 minutes left and you come back and win. But the best part about this team is they still haven't matched where we know they can play. They're still missing 9 free throws against Missouri and winning. They're only making 5 threes and getting 6 points from their bench and winning the game. They're having double-digit turnovers and winning games. You haven't seen them put it all together in 2 months. And to me, that's actually a good thing, because how are you 7-3 in the SEC and you still haven't played your best? You've been missing starters for half your SEC games and you're still winning games and a projected 2 seed. So when they figure it all out, like, this team is one of the best teams in the country. You haven't seen them play that way in 2 months, and they're still a top 10 team in the country.
You know, also going back to what you said, this is when they usually turn it on, and you're right. But if you go back the last few years, they had to turn it on at the end of the season.
That's a good point.
You know, and so now you look out, hey, we're in. You know, and I'm not saying that they're having that mentality. I don't know. But it's human nature at times. You know, you start reading some things, social media, whether the coach has allowed you to look at social media or not. You know, at some point, that's why I think at some point, you can't tell me Auburn didn't have a little bit of a letdown the other night against Florida.
Sure.
You know, when we were there at Auburn the few days before, I mean, they were already camped out for the tickets, the students and stuff, and then the team, I don't think, played their best game. So I think it's, like I said, I go back to it, it's my concern, but like you said, they turn it on. So maybe if they have that coming up, then they can turn that switch again and get going again.
How much of it is that by this point, Buzz has kind of experimented with all the tinkering, and he kind of knows this? It's like, you know, a fine wine. He waits for it to hit that point, and now, okay, I know all these pieces now, and I push the button, and this is where we stop the 8-game losing streak and we take off.
Yeah, because a couple of years ago, that button that he pushed was just giving the keys over to Quentin Jackson and letting him take over. Last year, it was Manny finding his way into the starting lineup and going crazy.
The year before that was Wade going on a crazy streak at the end of the season.
Exactly. So this year, if there's a button that's been pushed, it's been just facilitating more through Pharrell Payne.
Yes.
Now, I don't know if they're going to need to change any of that, but if they do lose, I don't know what the next button to push is. But I want to say the button has already been pushed since that Texas game. They figured out, hey, if no one can stop Pharrell Payne and you can't double him because A&M has shooters, just run your offense through him.
Last thing for you guys. What is it going to take to get a 2, 3, 4? Like, let's just kind of talk through the scenarios with what's left. 8 SEC games left, right? They've got, 7 wins, 7-3. So is it going to take 10, 12? What are we thinking? Luke, start us off and tap finish.
They're going to have to win the games they're supposed to. Obviously, there's no bad losses. There's no quad 3 or 4 games coming up. But just looking at it, you got to take care of business against Georgia, Arkansas, and LSU. Vanderbilt is a great team. Mississippi State, Tennessee, Florida, and Auburn, those are your 4 that, look, A&M is a great team, but if you lost all 4, nobody would fault you. Those are 4 of the best teams in the country. 3 teams that are probably going to be fighting for a 1 seed at least. If you don't win one of those 4 games, it's not a failure, but you're probably going to be a 3 or a 4 seed. If you take care of business and you're able to get 1 or 2 of those elite wins, a 2 seed is still in play. Now, you're going to need help. Like, Houston needs to lose a couple.
Right.
I know Purdue's ahead of them in the AP poll, but most bracketologists have A&M 1 spot above Purdue. Not that it matters because you're both 2 seeds, but like if Purdue is the 8th best, is their number 8 seed, is their number 8 overall seed, typically A&M's number 7, or if Purdue's 7, A&M's 6. So if you keep pace with Purdue record-wise, you're always going to have that leg up on them from the head-to-head. But you got to take care of business, and they've done that in SEC play. I know the Texas loss is still in everyone's minds, but that was a quad 1 game. If you take care of quad 2 and split your quad 1s, it's a 2 or a 3 seed.
I wish I could say it better than Luke, but I can't. But, again, I just think if we can get like to that 12 wins, there's no doubt, that we'd have one of those top 2s.
So outside of a huge losing streak, right? And I mean, not wishing that on anybody, but outside of that, you think they're at least a 4 or 5 seed?
Oh, yeah. So, yeah. If they just win like 3, 4 more games, they're going to be a protected top 4 seed.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if they
don't win another game from here on out, they'll be like
no. I was going to say, and if they win out,
Oh, if they win
they're
out,
one seed.
A&M's, if they win out, A&M will be a 1 seed.
Yeah, I'm
guaranteed.
sure people are already lined up getting tickets for that March 4th game against Auburn.
Yeah, look, I don't know what I'm predicting. I just want to talk scenarios. So, gentlemen, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
When we come back, it's a whole hour of basketball. We kind of reshuffled the deck with baseball season starting. We'll have Justin Lanham on the other side. We'll chit-chat with Justin, break down some more Aggie basketball. If you have any questions for Justin, you can send those in at 979-693-1150. It is TexAgs Live. And we are back on TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We're in the Rollo Insurance Studio. So Griglione just compared me to her history teacher. That's always great. Let's go to the hotline, the Buppy's Catering hotline, another history teacher. It is Justin Lanham here on the program. Mr. Lanham, good morning, sir. Oh, this is going so well. Justin, good morning, sir.
Good morning. How are you?
Hey, buddy. Are you at Starbucks? Where are you?
Hey. Say that again?
Are you at Starbucks? Where are you? Sounds like you're somewhere.
Oh, no. I'm outside, actually, in the parking lot. I was just walking a job, so, caught me at a good time.
Good stuff, man. Well, what do you think about our little Aggie basketball team that keeps rising up the polls, keeps winning games, for the most part, the ones they're supposed to? What do you think so far?
Yeah, super impressed with just, how steady they are, right? Like, in the big moments, they never feel, at least watching them, you never feel like the moment's too big for them. They just stay kind of even kill right there at the midline where you want them. And they just keep, finding ways to win games. And I think as a fan, you probably want to see this Aggie basketball team win, by 15 or 20, just so that, you don't have to put your heart through that and everything. But I think it's even more impressive that they're finding ways to win these tough games. And we know, I think that's going to prepare them really, really well for, the tournament, for the SEC tournament, number one, and then obviously for the big dance.
Justin, I want to break down that final play here in a second. But before that, I'm going to read you something from Dave on the YouTube page. In Norman, he says, Nuno, would you be happy with the Sweet 16 ending this season, or would it leave you just a little miffed that this team didn't hit the Elite Eight? And I'm allowed to be a dreamer, and things are going well right now. So since things are going well right now, I want more than the Sweet 16. I want an Elite Eight and beyond. I think a lot of it is based on timing of how things are going, right, and when they're trending. Right now, things are trending in a better than an Elite or a better than a Sweet 16 kind of trajectory. Am I right in my thinking as of right now?
Well, yeah, and I think the reason you can say that, too, is you would be disappointed. I hate to say disappointed, but your hopes are that they can get to an Elite Eight because, right now, where all the rankings and everybody's, putting the Aggies right now is basically in the top 8, right? And so for me, with that understanding, it's man, yeah, I think my hopes and dreams, like you said, would be that they get to the Elite Eight. Yeah, I think I would be a little disappointed right now if the season ended with just a Sweet 16 trip. And that's tough to say because we know that just to get to the Sweet 16 is tough. That doesn't just happen, So I do think that this team is very capable of getting to the Elite Eight.
All right, let's talk about that last play against Missouri because there's a lot of aspects to it, Justin. From a coach's perspective, I mean, there's the Andy pass, the way it was drawn up, the way Wade was just fearless. He had the ball in his hands. He knew he was shooting, and I think we all knew it was going in. From your perspective, kind of break down that play for us.
They kind of went to the horns look that they go to from time to time. They throw it in there to Andy kind of at the high post area at the elbow. Wade comes off to the right side. It looks, and Wade had talked about how it was probably supposed to be actually, a fake DHO dribble handoff. And so he comes into it. Wade rejects what was going to be a fake DHO, and he actually kind of fades off of it. And Andy finds him, and he has just enough separation to rise up and hit the three. And so I think that that right there just shows you the IQ. And I don't think that you have that unless you have some veteran guys on the team, right? And I think Buzz even talked about it in his press conference about how they put the ball in Andy's hands because they feel like he's such a good decision maker, and especially in those moments. And obviously that wasn't what was drawn up. And a lot of the times, look, especially as a coach, you've got to trust your players because a lot of the times what you draw up, yeah, it looks good on the little white marker board, but it doesn't always happen that way on the floor. And so to be able to trust Andy, to be able to trust Wade in that moment, obviously is big. And that's just two players making a play.
Justin, I want to break down more of these instances with the team where we are, but I do want to have this somewhat breaking news from John Rothstein about 47 minutes ago. He says Georgia's Dakota Lefeu out undisclosed for tonight's game against A&M. I think he's their third leading scorer. Their sixth-man, Georgia, Tyron Lawrence, is also out against A&M. He averages 8.3. He was a starter at Vandy before. So just Georgia, who is a team that can be dangerous, even though their schedule has not been nice to them recently, without some big legs in tonight's game.
Yeah, it's going to put more of a load on Asa Newell, who I think is a really, really spectacular player, especially with those two guys out. I think it's just going to put more on him, which is tough for a young guy like himself to have to carry that load. But he is really special, 6'11", can kind of do a little bit of everything. He's got the length. He's really dangerous in transition, too. He's hard to stop. As he's going downhill, he kind of goes into that slow Euro step that a lot of guys are going to now, and so he's really hard to guard. But I think that's going to be the key, is stopping him. If you can do that, I like the chances of the Ags tonight. But I think the other thing too is just keeping them off the glass. I think obviously having these two guys out for them will probably impact that some. Just the different rotations that will be in and how efficient they can be on the glass, I don't know. But the other dangerous thing I will say about that, whenever you have guys that are out, well, you have guys that are coming in that are kind of hungry, and you don't know, you haven't seen as much tape of them, right? Haven't seen as much film from these guys, and so sometimes it's almost a little bit more unpredictable. So you almost would rather the predictability of these guys that have been playing versus guys that are just coming in, and you're like, I don't really know what they had to offer. I don't know how much different this team is with these guys in. So that is the variable. That is something that the Aggies have to not really look forward to, but have to be prepared for tonight.
My love of basketball, it started before the 90s, but is really cultivated through what happened in 90s basketball, where it was a more physical brand of hoops. It was also where bigs played with their back to the basket, a little bit closer to the paint. I bring all that up, that sometimes I look at the way current basketball is played with bigs playing further out, and I'm like, God, Pharrell Payne is a big dude. I want him closer to the basket, but I can't argue with the success and the kind of year that Pharrell's had. So talk to me a little bit about how Buzz likes having players 12 to 13 feet, or his bigs 12 to 13 feet away, why that's a good thing, and also potentially why there could be some hiccups as well.
Yeah, I think the good thing about that is kind of just spaces out the paint a little bit, gives you a little bit more room to operate. And then it causes the defense to have to guard more of the floor, right? And so guys are probably going to be, in the passing lanes a little bit more, which is going to allow, Payne to be able to skip the ball to the outside. On Saturday, I thought Payne had a great play. He skipped it to the corner to Wilcher, and then Wilcher hit the one more to Wade for the wide open three. And so when you have that, when you have guys spacing and playing a little bit further away from the basket, it just opens up the floor a little bit more, and it's tougher for the defense to have to guard. But to your point, Payne is so physical that he can do both. Like he can sit at the elbow and take guys off the dribble, or heck, you've even seen him catch it at the elbow and back guys down at the elbow because he's so strong. He drew a foul on Missouri's defender on Saturday. The guy tried to pull the chair out from him, but he ended up getting the foul there. And so Payne is just so physical that, like you said, you probably at times do want him as close to the basket as you can, and especially in transition, you want him to bury his defender. If you're running in transition, bury your defender, get as close to the basket as you can so you can get a touch right there up next to the basket. The other thing that I will point out, David, is that I think having a guy like Henry Coleman, also having a guy like Payne, that does allow you to play from that high post and then also in the short corner, and they can kind of trade out in those positions, and they're really, really good at finding each other.
So I know you already mentioned Asa Newell, but he's a potential lottery pick. How do you cover him? Like, is that going to be Pharrell Payne who's going to have to take that because he's such a long player? Was he 6'10", 6'11"? Do you match him up with a little bit of Henry for the body and then Pharrell for the size?
Yeah, I think you probably send different guys at him throughout the night, just trying to, different coverages. I think a young guy like that, you can't let him get comfortable. You can't just send one coverage at him. I think you've got to send different coverages. So whether that's you're doubling from the wing spot, you're digging down at him if he catches at the low block. I think maybe you can send the backside guy and everybody's got to rotate down and cover. I think that, like you said, you can switch between Payne and Henry, heck, maybe even Solomon, just something different just to give him different looks, because a guy like him, whenever he's potential lottery pick, if he gets comfortable, he can definitely do some damage, and he can score in a hurry. So I think just making sure that he does not get comfortable, and that just comes from sending different coverages at him.
How hard is A&M going to be to beat when you have two front court players doing what we've seen from Farrell and Henry? Really, Henry, most of SEC play, right? And Farrell all season long.
Yeah, they're going to be tough, especially if they are kind of trading off. And what I mean by that, like Henry's able to get 16 boards, and then Payne's able to score 20 plus points. I mean, that's so hard to guard, and just have to just a lot of mental headspace that's being taken up for the opponent, just having to worry about those guys. And so if that's the case, then obviously you're going to get other guys involved, Wade Taylor, Manny, whoever it is, Phelps. That's just going to help their games, obviously, too. So I think somebody said this, and I would agree 100%. I think it might have been Henry Coleman said this in one of his pressers. I don't think that we have seen the best A&M basketball yet. Like, I don't think we've seen a game really where it's like everything was put together. And I think we've seen glimpses of that. There's no doubt about it. We've definitely seen maybe halves where the half was really good, or maybe there's, just a, 8-minute stretch or something like that. But I'm ready for that game where it just really, really feels like everything kind of got put together. And I think that's on the horizon. I think they're going to continue just to get better. And I think that's going to be, in the next couple of games that we can see that.
Talking to Justin Lanham here on TexAgs Live. It's interesting because I felt like the South Carolina game was trending in that direction. There were moments in the Missouri game that I thought they were trending in that kind of complete game. So it's going to happen, right? Like, I don't know if it's tonight against Georgia, but I feel like this team is way too good, especially when it matters, to not have a complete performance.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what I was touching on. It's like we see an 8-minute stretch where it just feels like everything's clicking. You're starting off the game with two turkeys. Just everything just seems to be really clicking. And then they just kind of get in this lull. It's almost like, I hate to say it, but it's almost like it feels like they get comfortable with a 12 or 13 point lead and then just kind of, get into coast mode. And that can't happen. I do think that that's not this team. Like, I don't think that they're like a coasting type team, but for whatever reason, it just seems like in these moments where they get this lead, they can't bury teams, right? We haven't seen that a whole lot this year where we've just been able to bury a team. And so, like you said, I hope that, I hope we can see that tonight against Georgia.
Mr. Lanham, great stuff, buddy. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, David. Appreciate you.
See you, man. Justin Lanham, breaking it all down here on TexAgs Live on the Buppy's Catering Hotline. We'll hit a break. We'll come back with, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, something like that. Rollo Insurance Time, the difference is real. They're an independent insurance company built around educating you on exactly what you're paying for, doing the shopping for you so that you can accomplish all of your insurance goals. So you're really good at what you do in life. Obviously, if you listen to TexAgs, you're a winner. Rollo Insurance is really good at what they do. And find out what my family knows and many others that work here at TexAgs and many people in this Aggie community know about what tens of thousands of Texans have already discovered with relief at Rollo Insurance, which means if you don't have the relief, you're out when it comes to gamesmanship with insurance. So go to rolloinsurance.com/TexAgs to initiate your relief with Rollo today. That number is 888-44-ROLLO. Go to rolloinsurance.com/TexAgs. Remember, 60 offices in Texas, but their headquarters is on Highway 6. 888-44-ROLLO. Or go to rolloinsurance.com/TexAgs. TexAgs Live presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. We're going to go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. I know we got a couple of texts that came in. One from Bob and Brian, B&B. He has an opinion when it comes to A&M's best win of the season.
He thinks it was Purdue.
Why?
He says, Purdue, I was there, 18,000 Purdue fans, maybe 75 Aggies. Purdue campus, 45 minutes northwest of Indy.
Bob and Brian, Texas. Look, hard to argue with a team that's the top 10 team, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hard to argue with that. I understand the argument of the most recent games because there are SEC games and the top conference in the world with 12, 13 teams probably getting into the tournament. So I get it. I think if I had to put my money on it, I'd probably also say Purdue based on where they rank, what they're going to do. If they win the Big Ten and they continue winning, it's good for A&M. Texas Tech is a great win. Missouri, incredible win. Ole Miss, incredible wins. Let's just be happy we live in a world. I like to do movie phone voice a lot. In a world where you can beat all the top 10 teams. Did you know movie voice? Movie line?
Yes.
How do you know about that? That was before your generation.
Oh, wait. I thought you said movie lines.
Pardon?
Wait, what'd you say?
Moon Lions?
Oh, I thought you said I like doing movie lines.
I think this whole segment has just got off the rails, Kate. I think it just got all... Yes, I do like doing movie lines. I was doing more like trailer voice, like, in a world where A&M has beat the number 7, there's 12, and number 13 teams in the country.
You should be a voice actor.
That
was pretty good.
I could. So you're saying I have a face for radio. Thanks. That's going to do it for TexAgs Live. You weren't supposed to laugh. You're supposed to be like appalled. Like, no, that's not what I meant, David.
Oh, sorry.
It's all right.
I'm so sorry, David. That's not what I meant.
That's actually, you could be an actress on radio. We'll see you next time.